Ok, Karina, parece que sí está grabando.
Hey, Chair Iturri, we are now live on Facebook. The webinar has started. Attendees have joined. We can start whenever you're ready.
Great, thank you, Karina. Hi, everyone. This is the May meeting of the Springs Municipal Advisory Council. Thank you all for being here this evening. We have a really full agenda with lots of really interesting topics this evening. So we're super glad that everyone was able to join us. And thank you to all our guests who are taking the time out of their busy lives to be here and share information with us. So we'll start with the roll call and move to the Pledge of Allegiance. Vice Chair Ray Willett.
Here.
Council Member Iris Lombard.
Here.
Council Member of Ron Goldman.
Here.
Council Member Mari Carmen Reyes. I think
she's running late.
Running late. Great. Thank you. We'll do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we have minutes to approve from several meetings. We have the March 23rd, April 27th, and then our special meeting that we held on May 12th. Are there any additions or corrections to any of those minutes? Seeing none, can we approve them as a lot, or do we need to go through each one?
You can do them as a whole.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes of March 23rd, April 27th, and May 21st of 2021. Can I get a second?
It's actually May 12th.
Oh, May 12th, 2021.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Iris. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Okay. So we have public comment this evening. Because our agenda is rather lengthy, we are holding public comment to 1.5 minutes today. We appreciate your patience in that little shift for us tonight, but we feel there may be a lot of comments this evening, and we want to be able to give everybody the space to be heard. So are there any public comments on items not on the agenda?
Okay, I do see raised hands. I'm going to make a quick announcement, Chair Iturri, in Spanish as well. Para las personas que nos están viendo a través de Facebook o a través aquí de Zoom, recuerden que esta reunión cuenta con interpretación en español. Vaya a la parte baja a la derecha de su pantalla. Si está viendo en Zoom, haga clic en el icono de interpretación. Ahí escuchará la reunión en español. Si desea hacer un comentario público ahora, por favor utilice la aplicación de levantar mano en Zoom, o si llamó puede oprimir estrella 9 para hacer su comentario. Gracias. I do see raised hands in the public.
Thank you, Karina.
Welcome.
Welcome, Mari Carmen.
Hello.
Nick, please state your name for the public record, and I will start the timer. Give me 1 second. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Kerner. That's K-O-E-R-N-E-R. I want to thank you briefly for taking the time to talk to me. Thank you, Karina, for inviting me to this meeting. I come to represent the skateboard community here in Sonoma, California. and announce the formation of our organization, which is called the Valley of the Moon Park Riders Union. And we hope to work with the county park system in order to create the best skate park that we can here in the Valley. I have been in this town since I've been 5 years old. Was here for the original building of the skate park that we currently have, and feel like as a group we have a lot to contribute, and hope that moving forward with the general Maxwell renovation project, that we can do some collaborating with the city. I have been collaborating with Jordan at Sonoma Originals, the skateboard shop that opened up in the past few years here in Boyes Hot Springs. And we look forward to working with everybody moving forward and creating a community for the skateboarders.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you very much.
Any more public comment, Karina?
I don't see any more raised hands from the public, but I do see a raised hand from Abram.
Avram?
Yes, Madam Chairperson, Iturri. I received an email from someone that lives in the Springs that couldn't be here. Can I read that for them? I don't know what the rules are on that. They asked me to present it.
Does it have to do with an agenda item?
No, it does not.
You can go ahead and read it.
Okay.
I'll start the timer again. I apologize.
Okay, it's going to be very short. I'm just reading his email. This is from a person named Glendon O'Brien. And he said, I'd like to bring up the subject of people parking in the bike lane while patronizing Andy's Liquor in Boyes Hot Springs. It says no parking in English, but it doesn't matter because English speakers and bilingual speakers park there in equal numbers. I'd like to suggest that we don't make this an issue that we need to have a sheriff parked out there all the time. Bilingual signage and possibly increased fines for violations could be sufficient. I'll leave that for wiser people to figure out. We need to discourage this unsafe practice that is not only unsafe for bicycle riders, but it's really not good for pedestrians as well. So.
Thank you, Avram. Appreciate you bringing that forward.
You're welcome.
Okay, seeing no more public comment. Is that correct? Okay, we'll move on. So my update is going to be very, very brief. I don't want to take up a lot of space tonight. So I just want to remind everyone, my update is about process. So I just want to remind everyone of the process in which we go through with our presentations. When we hear from our presenter, that's the information is fed forward. Then the next part of that would be questions from council members. So at that time you can pose your questions. Then we go to questions from the public. And after that, there may be a response from the presenter to both sets of questions. And then after that, there's comments at the end from council members. So I'm really going to try to stick to that format tonight. I know sometimes I let us swim around that a little bit, but I'm really going to work to hold to that tonight. Other than that, I don't have any more chair updates. I'll save it for June. And we will begin with our Supervisor Gorin is not here this evening, so we will not have an update from her office, but we will move on to Chief Akre, who's going to talk to us about the fire district and fire season. And I believe he's going to be more of a regular member of our little group here. So thank you, Chief Akre, for being here, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Maite. I don't know, am I supposed to refer to you appropriately as the chair?
Maite's good. I answer to anything.
Okay, well, I do the same. I'm not much for formalities, so please, all the members, Steve works just great for me. Thank you, first of all, for allowing me to be here tonight. both the MAC as well as Karina for facilitating this. So I know we got a full agenda, but just a little bit, because I think this is just important to me, and I think for the context of what everybody's trying to do here with the MAC. I've got a long history here in the Valley, about 50 years. While I wasn't born here, I was absolutely raised here, went to schools here. My parents were both teachers here in the Valley in the public school system, and have an even longer history with my grandparents. I started as a volunteer here in Sonoma when I was 18 years old, still in high school, and continued volunteering all the way until I came back as fire chief. So I have a very long history here. This valley is very, very important to me, not only in my role as fire chief now, which I am honored and privileged to be in, but also as a citizen, as a member of the community. Further, just to share just a tiny bit, when I was in a previous career stop in Contra Costa County, I spent time as a battalion chief there in West Contra Costa, and had the opportunity to be a liaison for both the El Sobrani and the Rodeo MACs. And so I kind of got my feet wet there, and I saw what just an important role the MACs played in the community, and how it was a really unique opportunity for us in the fire service to spread our message, and to also even more importantly, hear from members of the community what we could do to help make sure that the community was fire safe, keep them informed and prepared. So especially in this day and age, that is very, very important, as we all know. So first of all, yes, I would like to be a regular member. My goal is to be here maybe at least on a quarterly basis, and provide relevant updates, and maybe more frequently if it's appropriate. But I appreciate that opportunity, Maite, very much. And I do apologize tonight. My report is just going to be a verbal report. I was not able to get a presentation done in PowerPoint, and then translated into Spanish as well before tonight. So my apologies. I would hope when I can report out more regularly on some of our activities and call volumes and whatnot, and programs, that that could be done in a presentation format, as well as both in Spanish and English. So what I'd like to do is talk about the upcoming fire season. I know all of us are very keenly aware, in different ways of what we all face. It's a very early start to the fire season. We've had some significant incidents already statewide, and even in the North Bay. We're also in drought conditions. And so we're ramping up very early. And this was not what any of us had wanted or hoped for, based on what we've experienced the last few years here in Sonoma County, especially last year with both the wall bridge and the glass fire. Those were very, very significant incidents that taxed both community residents as well as the fire service. But I would argue that and submit that, as a community, as the fire service, we were much more successful in those incidents by really implementing lessons learned and new measures as a result of what happened in 2017 with the Nuns and the Tubbs fires. So just a little bit into this, we as the Sonoma Valley Fire District, we're a very new district. Made up of some old Valley districts. We started our consolidation in July of 2020 of the former Valley of the Moon, Glen Ellen, and Mayacamas fire departments. We've been taking many steps along the way with partner agencies to prepare not only our communities, but ourselves, our department, for the upcoming fire season. First, I'd like to mention our Vegetation Management inspection program that we do in coordination with the county. This is our third year of doing this. We were one of the initial agencies that was a pilot program. This year, we're going to be targeting again the area in what we refer to as the maze in the springs, and this is areas like Middlefield, Mountain, Hillcrest, Park, some of those streets that are local responsibility areas. That means those are primarily responsible for the local fire district. Our partners, CAL FIRE, is focusing on some of the state responsibility areas. And the state responsibility areas very generally is kind of the state watershed areas. So it's hillsides and anything that's above kind of flat ground. Next are we debate. Oh, so on the vegetation management, anyone that is going to have a property that is going to be part of that education and inspection program should have already received a notice that they will be part of the program this year. And we're hoping by the start of next week that we'll actually be hitting the ground with inspectors out there doing those vegetation management inspections. Similarly, we have our annual weed and hazard abatement program that is in full swing. We have an inspector out there doing inspections of what are our normal vacant lots and parcels that have been the subject of either complaints or weed abatement processes in the past. Just for everybody's knowledge, if somebody has a weed abatement complaint about overgrown vegetation, we just last year implemented an online reporting opportunity. So that is through svfra.org. And people can make that complaint online, or they are always more than welcome to contact us via phone at 996-2102. Next, we've also been very active in evacuation planning and preparations. So on May 1st, we partnered with the Sheriff's Department as a distribution spot for evacuation tags at our Fire Station 3, which is the Agua Caliente station. And we continue to partner with them in ways that we can educate with the Sheriff's Department and the Department of Emergency Management to continue to prepare our communities for evacuation. Very related to that, evacuation maps that have been updated throughout the county, including the unincorporated areas as well as the city of Sonoma, are now available through socoemergency.org/evacuation-maps. So we played an integral part in that, along with our law enforcement, CAL FIRE, and emergency management partners to develop those evacuation zones. Next, we have 4 operational area coordinators for fire services in the county. And 2 of them happen to be here in Sonoma Valley. Myself and our operations chief, battalion chief Andreas, are 2 of the 4 operational area coordinators. And we're responsible to the State Office of Emergency Services to coordinate resources that are available here within the county to both fight fires and upstaff additional resources here in the county as well as in neighboring counties. So we stay very up to date on weather forecasts, current incidents, and resource availabilities in order to best be able to provide mutual aid resources as quickly and efficiently as possible. Next, our local crews here are training really hard, really early in skills, hard skills, and refresher information on tactics and strategy to make sure that everybody is ready for those grass and vegetation fires that we know are going to happen. We have had a couple of fires here in the springs. They've thankfully been really small to date, but as everybody can see, just looking at the hillsides, the fuels are cured already, and it's ready. So we appreciate everybody's diligence in getting out there and mowing early. I know historically we say, please mow before noon on days that are not high fire danger, but even before 10 o'clock is even better. So the earlier the better, and certainly not taking any chances on hot or windy days. Next, and I'm getting near the end here, our fire response. So normally your fire district staffs 4 engine companies and 2 ambulances on a daily basis. And we add additional staff when there's red flag conditions here in the county and in the North Bay. But it's really important for me to share with the community the dedication and commitment of all of our members, both career and volunteer. We now have 60 full-time employees and over 40 volunteer firefighters, which is pretty remarkable for this day and age where the ability for people to be active volunteers is really, really challenging. And most agencies feel a real squeeze on the numbers that they're able to keep up. Last year during the wall, bridge, and glass fires, in addition to keeping those 4 engine companies and 2 ambulances staffed here in the Valley to protect our community, we contributed 9 additional engine companies to those incidents to help our neighbors in our county, which is just, to me, really, really remarkable. That's really double the amount of our daily staffing that we were able to contribute and help our neighbors. And they made a tremendous difference. Our crews on the glass fire were in Skyhawk and Los Alamos Road, and really defended and protected countless number of structures and kept families able to come back to a home instead of rubble. And so my hat's off to all of the members of our organization and their commitment. Next, just briefly, COVID. It seems like we're kind of getting out of this, which is wonderful for everybody, but the last year's been a real challenge, as I know for each of us personally, but also for us as an emergency service provider. We did our very best to protect our own people and their families with the overall goal of being able to continue to provide service to our community. If we didn't keep our people safe, we could not continue to provide service. And we were remarkably successful with those measures. We were proactive. And then that continued, that spirit and that level of commitment to the community continued with our efforts to vaccinate the community. So we took a very lead role in vaccinating first responders, law enforcement, as well as over 4,500 members of our own community. And that was obviously in partnership with other agencies like the Community Health Center and Sonoma Valley Hospital. But it was a tremendous effort, and it feels really good to have played a part in that role to help our community get vaccinated. And that's continuing as we continue to partner with the health center to provide vaccinations at La Luz. And we're doing that as much as we can with some of our bilingual members, which I know makes a big difference as we're providing that service. Speaking of that, last year we had 6 vacancies, and we struggled to find qualified firefighter paramedics to fill those vacancies. And so through the efforts of our command staff, we started thinking outside of the box a little bit more. And we ended up hiring conditionally 6 of our part-time members who were firefighter EMTs with us. And we sponsored them through paramedic school. I was very excited that 3 of the 6 are Latin ethnicity and Spanish speakers. So 3 more bilingual members of our department had this opportunity. And I am just super excited that the three of them passed their initial finals for their paramedic classes and are now going to start their field internships, which, you know, for almost everyone, those the classroom finals are by far the most difficult spot and part of the process, and they all passed. And so we're excited that they're going to continue as really valued members of our organization and just really important service providers for our whole community. It feels really good. And last, before I open up to any questions that anybody may have, I want to say a very sincere thank you to members of the Sonoma Springs Community Hall, specifically Ariel Peterson, Janice Foltzman, Alex Leader, Paul Martinez, and Seth Dolinsky for their efforts on the Gateway project at our Fire Station 3, the Agua Caliente station. The landscaping that they did there and improvements is really a great addition to the station and makes that station much more pleasant to look at as we arrive, whether it's coming to the station or just passing by. And so I really want to thank them for all of their efforts to help beautify that station and that gateway. So with that ends my report, but I'm very happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you, Chief Akre. I'm so excited to hear all the things that you all are working on. That's amazing. And thank you for your commitment to diversity for this community. That's commendable, and we really, really appreciate it. And it's nice to hear the excitement in your voice about that. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. You know what? It's a part of that connection and being able to serve every aspect, all aspects of our community. And, you know, even on, as another little example, but a meaningful one, I think, is even at the evacuation tag distribution, we had some of our bilingual members there to be able, just that ability to connect in comfort and in confidence is really, really important. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So nice to hear from you. So I'll open it to questions from the council members. Ray, and then Iris. And then Avram.
Steve, I'm grateful to have you here. Thank you. You arrived just in time. We were having a conversation this morning with Roberta McIntyre from FireSafe Sonoma regarding what model we should use moving forward. We'll talk more to the MAC about that, maybe not in this meeting, but in subsequent meetings. And I love your input. We're thinking FireWise community versus FireSafe community at this point, just because of the speed which we can get it out, looking more at the Marin model versus what we were doing before. So I'm happy to have you here and look forward to engaging you in that discussion. And the only other thought I've had is I live right down here by the creek, and I know that creek with our population in there has got to become a problem from time to time with uncontrolled fires, campfires. I don't know what we can do as a community to address that. If there would be places that we could provide, along the route that could be used, that would be safe, that would be welcoming, in places, so that they didn't have to feel like they were making little campfires out in the woods or something. I don't know what that is, or I guess I'm asking how we start that conversation, because it's a concern being down here, but I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Ray. I appreciate that. And yes, we've been, I could go in so many directions, and I tried to keep things brief tonight with my report, but we are actively working with a number of groups that want to form either fire safe councils or FireWise communities. Myself and our Fire Marshal, Trevor Smith, are both active in the county's process of updating their community wildfire protection plan. So we're big supporters of that of all of those efforts, work with Roberta and Carolyn Stafford very, very regularly for that. So we're happy to be a resource, and we've got a couple of fire safe councils here established in the unincorporated area in the Valley, and happy to connect and share experiences, templates, and whatever we can do to facilitate that. It's a really, really critically important part of preparing communities for potential wildfires. So thank you. And as far as the creek issue, yeah, the creek is, one of our highest call volumes is, Maxwell Park and the creek. And it's an ongoing issue. We work very closely with both the Sheriff's Department as well as County Public Works to do what we can. But, I think very honestly, it's a bigger societal issue.
It's a tough question. I'm sorry to throw that at you.
No. Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. I'm a resident. Again, I'm a resident here, so I can put on my fire chief's hat and say, we're doing everything we can, within our lane to try to address things. But as a community member, it's a bigger issue.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for your candor.
Of course.
Iris?
I was wondering, does the grass cleanup and does that include reporting for debris, piles of debris also?
You are welcome to report piles of debris. And what we will do is we will send out an inspector and have them evaluate. Just like the weed and dry grass. It's there is, in full honesty and openness, there can be, there's a level of things that are truly a fire hazard. And then there are other things that are more just kind of a, unsightly or nuisance kind of level that don't really rise to the level of being a true fire hazard. But our inspectors are happy to come out and take a look and then follow up on anything that is a fire hazard.
Yeah, I can think of some places that, 3 feet high, 4 feet wide, 6 feet wide, that kind of thing. And that's a little, concerning. It
Sure,
seems like
absolutely.
It would be a fire hazard.
Absolutely. Please let us know about them and we'll be happy to go out and take a look.
Thank you.
Of course.
Avram?
Good. Steve, nice to have you here. It's good to have the local person here to give not only the fire chief's perspective, but their own personal perspective. A couple of things. One, I live on Park. I live at sort of the head of the Agua Caliente Canyon. In years past, Cal Fire used to come over to my house. As a matter of fact, I was charged $110 a year to have the inspection. I don't know what happened to that. It got dropped or whatever, but I enjoyed them coming over and helping me to keep my area fire safe. I didn't get a notice from you. I don't know if I'm part of Cal Fire because my property does go on the incline up the hill. So I'm not sure whose jurisdiction and what can I expect. I'm happy to have people come over and make suggestions as to, my property, but I didn't receive it. So I'm kind of perplexed.
Okay. So, Avram, it's very nice to see you again. I know we connected a couple of years ago on KSVY and it's nice to see you.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it has, but very nice to see you and hear you. So the issue between Cal Fire and us is it's not super complicated, but it's a little bit multi-layered, I will say. So everyone is part of our fire district, the Sonoma Valley Fire District now. And so what we've done, because there's part of the state resources code is, designating what is state responsibility area versus local responsibility area, and trying to be as proactive as we can with this. And this is all on the heels of 17, right?
Sure.
The county and local fire districts decided that we needed to do something more on the local level. And so that's where County Ordinance 13, the Defensible Space and Vegetation Management Ordinance, got updated, and we started this program. And so the first couple of years in the pilot, and then the next year, we kind of had some overlap with Cal Fire, and it was not good for anybody. We weren't reaching as many people as we could, because we were hitting some people twice. Some people were confused because the state standard versus the county standard was a little bit different. So what we ended up doing last year was we decided to say, hey, look, the local districts are just going to do inspections in the local responsibility area, and we're going to leave Cal Fire to do the state responsibility area. So that seemed to work well last year. That's what we're continuing to do this year. If you have not gotten a notice, you wouldn't have gotten a notice from us as the fire district. You would have gotten a notice from the county. And if you did not receive a notice from the county, then your property is not slated, it has not been identified to have a scheduled inspection this year. Now, with that, though, I will say, if anybody is interested in having their property have a vegetation management inspection done, please contact us, and we are happy to schedule you. There is not a limit to this. It is just trying to, we schedule over 300 of these inspections per year. And, it obviously takes a lot of capacity to be able to go out and time to do that. So we're targeting specific areas, but if there's other people that are nearby or anywhere in the district that really want that service, we're happy to provide that. You just please email us, call us, and ask for one, and we're happy to do that.
What's that number, Steve?
996-2102.
Okay, yeah, that same number you gave before.
Yep.
Because, there is concern. We dodged a bullet in 2017, so to speak, because I don't have to tell you, Agua Caliente Canyon is just loaded.
No,
and if it burns here, we could be a paradise. I hate to say that.
Well,
so I guess I know you're anxious to do. I guess what I'm saying is, what are some of the other things besides vegetation management? I know during 2017 on Park Avenue, just south of my property, they came in with a cat and went straight up the hill and did a fire break, which was good. My house would have burned, but maybe Sonoma would have been saved, which is great. But are we doing any of that proactive fire breaks, trying to get ahead of this rather than sort of waiting till it happens and then start doing the fire breaks?
Yeah, I think you get into a really long, complicated discussion there. I think a lot of the measures that we're taking, I feel, are very proactive, and we're really leaps and bounds ahead of where we were in 17. The problem with fire breaks is that, just to take that one element, is we struggle to put in roadside clearances, because we have to, once we get out of the county right away on a road, we have to get individual property owners permission to go onto their land and go even 10 feet and clear grass and brush. So it's I'm not diminishing the importance of it at all. I mean, I see the importance of it, but when we struggle to even gain consensus and go through a process to get property owners to allow us, roadside clearance, to then look at doing something like a big fire breakthrough, a number of different properties, it's a big endeavor. And then you kind of top that off with, there's a lot of environmental concerns when we start looking at doing something like that. And so, we've tried to partner with a lot of agencies like the Ecology Center, the Land Trust. We've participated with Audubon, with control burns, prescribed burns. We're trying to do everything that we can. Arguably, there's a lot more to do. But we're trying to do that. And I think, kind of to, dovetail back to with what Councilmember Willett said, is that, this is really where those fire safe councils or firewise communities can really have a big impact. Is it's getting neighborhoods together that, can spend the time to educate and get everybody on the same page that, hey, this is what we need to do to make our neighborhood fire safe. Mm-hmm. That's the incredible value in those fire safe councils. Is it's not a county-wide thing. It's not a supervisorial district thing. It's a neighborhood thing. And that's where you can gain that power and that ability to make some stuff happen. I mean, the biggest one that I point to is the Mayacamas Fire Safe Council. They've done a ton of work, roadside clearances, shaded fuel breaks, fuel reduction, a lot of different stuff. And that's something that they, that format and that level of organization can really accomplish best, I think.
Well, I thank you. We could probably go on for hours talking about this. I don't want to take any more time. I have two quick things. One, in terms of those evacuation tags, obviously I live just down the street from the fire station on Agua Caliente. Do they have them available there at the station? Is that where I'd pick one up?
I will have to check and see if they have any more available at the station. It may be that we need to get more through the Sheriff's Department. So we were a partner with the Sheriff's Department and Department of Emergency Management on these evacuation tags. But what I will do is I will follow up on that, and I will get that information to Karina. And can I ask Karina to maybe then, spread that information to everybody?
Yeah, because we had one of those tags in that 2017 fire. The last thing is the evacuation maps. Had anyone thought about just mailing them out? Because I haven't seen that at all, and maybe I'm just too busy working or something and unaware of that, or where do we get them? But it would seem that it would be really important to get that information to every household.
True. So I absolutely agree with you. So I just received, this has been a work in progress over the last couple of years. We've had some really good successes with the way that we were able to evacuate after the Kincaid fire, the Walbridge fire, the Glass fire. If everybody will remember, I think this is a very important note that, we didn't have any fatalities on those fires. Compared to the Tubbs fire, our evacuation system, our alert and warning systems have been greatly improved since 17. But to that point, the evacuation maps, I just received an email this week that they were finalized. So this is brand new, kind of hot off the presses. So what I can do, I mentioned the website that they're available on. I will forward that to Karina as well. I imagine she may have this, but in case she doesn't, I will forward that to her and make sure that gets blasted out to everybody as well.
Well, that's great for us. I'm concerned about all the other people that live in my neighborhood that either are unaware, they don't read the IT, that, they're just kind of going through life happily. And that's why I'm suggesting, either you have some delivery service that just throws it in mailboxes or mail. I know this was an expensive thing, but this could save lives if people know the proper way to evacuate. We don't have many routes out of this valley.
No, we don't.
It's scary because in that last fire, I know there were some complaints with the folks up in Oakmont that they were in traffic lines, including Supervisor Gorin. And I just don't want to see that happen because anything through here, if it becomes catastrophic, would not be pretty. So I think if there's some way that we can get that to people where they can pin it somewhere that they know about this, it would really be helpful. It's nice to have the brochure or the map evacuations, but unless we get them to the people, it really doesn't matter.
Thank you. I think
That's it. I'm done.
okay, good. Because Mari Carmen has a question. Steve, did you have a response?
Can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead, Mari.
I was just going to say real quick.
Okay.
I think that this is,
Chief Akre, this is Mari Carmen. We've talked over the phone before.
Hi, yes, we have. How are you?
And first of all, I want to thank you for joining with Sonoma Valley Health Partners and with the health center, with the vaccination clinics. The community is so grateful in getting to know the firefighters that are doing the vaccines. It's just been amazing. They're like, I don't want the firefighter to be the one to vaccinate me. Like, people literally come because they have a really soft arm. I can name a few, and some of them are, I think 2 of the 3 that are your Spanish-speaking ones, but all very sweet. And the community has just been, I think it's been a great opportunity for the community members to get to know the fire department also. I wanted to ask you, I know it's probably there's no window at all, but are you considering bringing back the COPE? Would it be something until next year? I know we're starting to do more. We want to start doing the neighborhood meetings, working with Map Your Neighborhood, with the health center and Map Your Neighborhood. And actually tomorrow we're going to be having an emergency preparedness event at the health center with Halter Project, the sheriff, Pets Lifeline, and 4Cs. And so Julie actually brought over the evacuation tax that were at the Agua Caliente fire station. So Avram, I invite you to come on over. I know Sylvia's going to bring some also, but I think there's still some left over at the station 3. And so I just want to thank you again for everything. And I think we need to just continue, doing this work. So we're starting to get a lot of momentum working with community and with the fire department, because like you said, it's going to take a village, and it's going to neighborhood by neighborhood. So, thank you again for your leadership, and we're really grateful for what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Mary Carmen. I couldn't agree with you more on all of that. I appreciate our partnership with the Community Health Center and all that you do for our community. I know, so our SCOPE program, it's COPE, but instead of just community, it's Sonoma Community, or Sonoma Citizens. We're still very much active with that, though, during COVID, we, obviously were not able to connect as much as we had in previous years. And I believe that we've worked with you before, Captain Joe Morrison and Ben Golson. Have you had a chance to reach out to us at all about tomorrow's event? Or you're on mute.
Yeah, I talked to Brian. I talked to Joe.
Okay.
I
just want to make sure that we were in the loop on that.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, no, I think now you can hear me. Yes, I talked to Joe, I talked to Brian, Michael, or but they said that there wasn't going to be a decision made until the end of May if firefighters could do outreach again. Okay. And I totally understand. And I know that for the pop-up or one of the neighborhood events that we're going to be having in the next couple of weeks, which we'll talk about later, Brian already said that they can join. But I just wanted to ask about COPE specifically, because that's one thing that really goes with the neighborhood aspect.
Absolutely. And what we've done in the past, even the year just before COVID, is we offered both scope classes in Spanish and in English. And so I see us going back to that here very soon after we're able to open up and really, start engaging with the community.
Thank you. So we do have public comment or public questions at this point, Chief Akre. So we'd like to see if there are any questions from the public, and you can hold on to them and answer them all at the end if you want to do that. I just want to remind the council members that we have an opportunity to interact with our community and remind them about these things too. So this information coming to us is really important that we flow it out to our community members as well. So just a little reminder on that. Okay. Are there any public questions, Karina?
Yes, I did see a raised hand. And now Fred disappeared. I don't know what happened.
I know, I saw his hand go up too.
That was very strange. No other raised hands, but let's give it a minute. Yeah, he was on here. I'll give my announcement real quick in Spanish. A los miembros de la comunidad que desean hacer un comentario en español, por favor de utilizar la aplicación de levantar mano o raise hand para hacer su comentario. I do see another raised hand.
Maybe Fred will find his way back.
Here we go. Give me a second. Please state your name for the public record when I ask you to unmute on your end. Amy?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, let me set the timer. Give me 1 second, please. And go ahead.
It's much better than last month. This is great. Amy Pearl for the record. And thanks very much for what you're doing for the community and dealing with all this fire preparation. I had kind of, since you're here, I wanted to ask, just take the opportunity. I've heard that there isn't a high adoption rate of vaccination among fire departments. Are you seeing much of that resistance in the fire departments?
No, not in our department. We have well over a 90% vaccination rate, both within our career and volunteer staff. I apologize, I don't have an exact number right now, but as of a couple of months ago, we were over 90%. I think I think that speaks to a number of things. I think it's the dedication and commitment of our members to the community, many of which are, community members, they live here in the community. And then I think there was a great job done by fire service leadership that, including our medical director at Sonoma Valley Hospital, to educate and inform our members on just what the vaccine was and potential side effects and just dispelling a lot of rumors, I think, more than anything, and misconceptions. And so we've had a great response.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Zaira, on your end, o Zaira, no sé si habla español, pero puede hacer su comentario. Zaira, I'm not sure if you need to make your comment in English or Spanish. Go ahead. Adelante, Zaira.
Sorry, there was no comment. There was no comment from me. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other raised
I don't, and I don't know where we lost Fred, but he was here.
Okay, are there any final comments from the council? Oh, Fred's
Chair.
back.
Yes. Here we go. Fred, go ahead.
I fought my way back from Neverland. Well, as a loyal SMAC follower, I just want to prove that I'm here and ask a question and participate. I wanted to ask Chief Akre, why didn't Shell Vista join the district?
Why didn't Shell Vista join the district? I think that is a question that is probably better answered by the Shell Vista Board of Directors, their policymakers. I think that, you know, in my estimation, it was they just weren't quite ready to take that step. I think, you know, anytime there's consolidation talks and opportunities, it's a process, and it's something that is a big change for organizations. And you know, different organizations have a different appetite or comfort level with change. And I would say, just even pointing to, you know, the successes that we've had as the Sonoma Valley Fire District. I mean, we started out in 1992-ish, you know, maybe 2002 formally. The groundwork was earlier in the 90s, but in 2002 we formalized as a JPA, and it's taken 20 years to get us to the point of consolidating, and we're still not quite there with the city yet, but we're hopeful. And so our doors are open to both our neighbors, Kenwood in the north and Shell Vista in the south, for when the timing's right. You know, in my experience, it's, and not just here in the Valley, but we dealt with this a lot in West Contra Costa as well. You know, consolidations and mergers are so much more effective in when you're providing a public service, when it's the gathering of the willing and interested, so to speak. And that's, I think, really the hallmark of why Sonoma Valley Fire District is so successful, is that it started from the ground up, and we've continued to have willing partners and show our successes and our ability to provide better service to our communities. And so we've been successful. I hope that answers your question, Fred. I know it wasn't maybe the soundbite that you were interested in, but.
Thank you.
We have, yes, David or Devon, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Go ahead, please state your name for the record.
Karina, you unmuted Tom Conlon?
Oh, sorry, Tom, go ahead.
Thank you, Tom Conlon. Appreciate all the conversation tonight and the council's great questions. And Jefe Akre, very much impressed with the scope of what you are talking about tonight. I was curious about the evacuation along Highway 12. I know it's come up in the El Noca, Oakmont community. There's a new proposed community up there. And I know that some people have recently met with PG&E and are concerned about the work that's going on along Highway 12 during fire season, which could potentially complicate evacuation processes if we were to have to do so this fall. And I was just curious to have your thoughts on how we're coming along in terms of developing our evacuation planning along Highway 12 in particular, which we know to be a problem after the glass fire in particular.
Yeah, great question, Tom. You know, that we, you know, it's an incremental process, I will say. You know, the first step in the process is to identify the evacuation zones And then once we identify those and have consensus on those with our partners, both in law enforcement and CAL FIRE, then we're very quickly, and we have turned our attention to evacuation routes. And to me, after experiencing 17, as well as, the first night of the glass fire, I was on duty that night and went up, at least towards Los Alamos. Highway 12 was a choke point. It was problematic. So those are kind of ongoing issues that we're trying to address. It's not an easy process because, as you know, Highway 12 is a state highway. And so it involves a lot of different entities to, come to consensus, as well as then, implement some of the strategies and measures that we may need to make evacuations flow more smoothly. So it involves Caltrans, CHP, Sheriff's Department, us, CAL FIRE, County Public Works, just a myriad, the city of Sonoma. So it's a lot of players, but I hope that while I don't have the solution at the ready right now, work is in progress on this.
Thank you. Davin?
You should see a prompt on your end to unmute. You can hear us. Davin, go ahead if you can hear us. Unmute on your end and state your name for the public record. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
My name is Anna Miller, and I'm wondering about the PG&E line management. Well, there's a lot of not so wonderful lines in our area. And can we get any kind of an update on that?
I would love to be able to provide that to you, but I don't have an up-to-date situation status for the work that PG&E has done. I think that might be something, if the chair would like, we could invite our, the PG&E does have community liaisons. And unfortunately, one that I know very well and have worked with very, very closely in the past. He is retiring as of the end of this month, but I know he will have a replacement soon, and we could maybe invite him or her, whoever the replacement is, to join a future meeting and maybe address that. I can say just generally from my experience over the last couple of years, PG&E has done a lot of work. While there's still work to be done for sure, they've done a lot of work in hardening their lines, as well as being able to more surgically, so to speak, shut off power in the PSPS events and red flag warnings. So it's not just a blanket. I know a couple of years ago, we experienced the whole valley was out of power, and that was awful, right? It affected everybody. Since then, PG&E has done a lot of work on their infrastructure to be able to, cut like a neighborhood or a street or even a side of a street. And so we're not seeing those widespread shutoffs that we did a couple of years ago. But to get much more specific than that, I'm not the one that can speak to that. We would need to bring in one of the PG&E liaisons.
I think we'll look to see to do that in the future. Thank you for that recommendation, Chief Akre. I appreciate that.
You bet.
So seeing no more public comment at this point, we can take final comments from the council members at this point, if there are any comments from the group. Iris?
Sorry. Okay, saw the evacuation zone map in the paper. it doesn't actually give information on evacuation. And you can give me just a short answer. I'm really aware of, time. So will there be more information forthcoming that you know of?
I'm sure there will be. I do not know specifics on that. So I know that the Department of Emergency Management, as well as the sheriffs, both have public information positions. And I know that that is a very, very high priority for them both, is to get this information out to the public. But I'm not intimately in those conversations on how and when that information is going to be delivered.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chief Akre, I just want to say thank you again for taking the time to be here. This is such an important topic. The MAC has definitely been doing a lot of work in emergency preparedness, and it's really nice to have you be a part of this work and to be able to share what's happening with all of us. So we look forward to future collaboration and conversation with you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I love all of the very excellent questions. And obviously, this is a topic that is very, very important to not only the MAC and the community, but to us as the service providers as well. So thank you, and I look forward to joining you again in the very near future.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're gonna, and don't feel obligated to stay for the duration of the meeting, so.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. So we're gonna move on to our next presenter. Jay, I'm not going to say your last name right. I just know it. I should have written it phonetically and I did not. So Jay represents Sonoma Water. He's here to talk about the drought on behalf of Brad Sherwood. And I just want to remind council members that that we ask after the presentation, we can ask questions, and that the presenter can wait to answer all those questions at once. And public comment also, questions can be taken in as a group, and then we'll have an opportunity to provide comment again after that. So I will turn it over to Jay, and please say your last name for us again. My apologies.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm Jay Jaspers. And I'm happy to be here. Good evening, council members. And I am sitting in for Brad Sherwood. He sends his apologies. He had a family matter that came up, so you get me sitting in for him tonight. To talk about, we go from fire now to water, but sadly, I'm going to talk about a lack of water, in specifically the drought we're experiencing now. And this drought really is a 2-year drought. Last year was very dry too. So we're in 2020 and 2021 are rivaling the 1970s, late 1970s, 77 drought as the drought of record. So it is extremely serious drought that we're in. And droughts are kind of unusual emergencies. They slowly develop over time, and they tend to leave quickly. Sometimes it just takes one storm to bust a drought, but we don't know how long this drought will last either. So that's another factor that is difficult with droughts. We know in the past record, based on tree ring data and in climate future modeling, that droughts can this severe could last for more than 2 years. And so as water managers in communities, we have to deal with the here and now and the drought we have, and we have to hope for rain come November and into the following winter, but we also have to plan that perhaps we'll have a third dry year. And so we have to manage our water supplies and plan on multiple time frames. The other thing that I'll just mention, I have some slides here I'll go through hopefully fairly quickly. One of the things that we need to think about too is that, we typically use rainfall data to kind of mark the seriousness of a drought, and that is an important criterion. But we have to remember, and I'll use 1977 drought as an example, where we have roughly the same level of precipitation, low levels of precipitation, but it's a lot warmer now due to climate change and increased heat. And so you can have the similar rainfall as historical droughts, but the impacts today are going to be greater because of the increased temperatures. They dry out vegetation, soils, evaporation, etc. So the impacts of drought are increased. So it's more than just rainfall. And I'm going to talk mostly because Sonoma Water is the primary surface water supplier for Sonoma County in the urban areas, including Sonoma Valley. I'm going to talk mostly about surface water, and it's very visual, but the other part of our water equation, our other major source is groundwater. And groundwater is a very important supply, especially in droughts. It tends to get communities tend to lean on groundwater more, obviously, when our reservoirs and streams are low and the surface water supplies are diminished. But we have to make sure that we manage our groundwater supplies so that in times of drought like this, those aquifers are healthy and robust and can serve as a supply that gets us through these lean times during drought. So with that, I'm going to, let's see, I can share screen here. And let's see, can people see these slides? Yes, thumbs up. Okay. Yes. I'm going to go through some slides here that actually Brad put together. So it's always a little interesting when somebody else puts together slides that you talk off of. At least I find that, because people's brains work differently. But I'll work my way through these slides here fairly quickly. Just a brief word on Sonoma Water. If you haven't heard of us or know who we are, we now call ourselves Sonoma Water, but historically Sonoma County Water Agency. We're actually a special district created in 1949. And we are a distinct legal entity from the county of Sonoma, but our board of directors are the same 5 people who sit as the board of supervisors. Our major function is, as you might imagine, is to provide wholesale water supply to 8 retail customers and some smaller ones too, that represent about 600,000 residents in portions of Sonoma and Marin counties. As you'll see, we manage the Russian River system and a couple reservoirs up there. And we treat and provide that water to cities and water districts in mostly the urban areas of Sonoma and Marin counties. In Sonoma Valley, in the springs, we provide water to the Valley of the Moon Water District, who is what is likely your water supplier. And also in the Sonoma Valley, we provide water to the city of Sonoma. We also do flood control in certain areas, and we have and manage 8 wastewater treatment plants, including the Sonoma Valley County Sanitation District. And then we also, we have renewable energy enterprise as well. So that's a little bit about us. Let's talk about the surface water and how that relates now to the drought. As I mentioned, in Sonoma County and our region's major surface water source is the Russian River system. And this is a map of the watershed with the Russian River you can see noted there. And the red arrows show the 2 reservoirs that we co-manage with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Lake Mendocino up near Ukiah and Lake Sonoma outside of Healdsburg. And we manage those reservoirs for water supply and maintaining minimum in-stream flows in the river during the drier season of the year. And the Corps of Engineers operate those facilities for flood control. I'll talk a little bit about both of these, but just in a nutshell, Lake Mendocino, from a water supply perspective, it's much smaller than Lake Sonoma, about 1/3 of the size. And it has been really difficult to provide for that facility to operate in a reliable manner to provide reliable water supply and flows of the upper Russian River. And when I mean the upper Russian River, I'm talking from Healdsburg up through Ukiah. This has been very vulnerable to drought impacts. And as I'll mention, and you'll see, we're facing some severe conditions and very concerned about the conditions in the upper Russian River for this coming summer and fall. Lake Sonoma is a much larger facility. And this is where most of your water supply here in Sonoma Valley comes from. And so it's much more resilient against droughts. And this is one of the things that we find with droughts is we all experience the same weather, but within a community, there are certain areas of the community that feel the impacts more directly. So if you're in Healdsburg and you're north, you're going to feel the impacts of this drought much more strongly than if you're in Sonoma Valley or Santa Rosa. That doesn't mean you won't feel impacts this year here in the Sonoma Valley, but Lake Sonoma is a much more resilient reservoir for water supply. So you have that advantage. So this is a picture of Lake Mendocino. And you can see the top right is what it should look like this time of year, and the lower right is what it looks like this time of year. The reservoirs right now should be at their fullest levels. And we're at pretty low levels, as I'll show you in another slide. The governor came up and visited us about a month ago, and that's him at the bottom of a dry bed in Lake Mendocino. And as he said, he should be 42 feet underwater at that location this time of year. He declared at this visit an emergency for Sonoma and Mendocino counties, and then that was followed up a week or so later for most of the rest of California for drought conditions. So the drought's not just us, it certainly is statewide. Here's Lake Sonoma picture. The lower right is what it looks like now at the same location, whereas it typically should look like the upper left at that location in Lake Sonoma. You can always go to our website at sonomawater.org, and we have a whole page on the drought, and we keep statistics current on rainfall at different locations and our storage levels at our reservoirs. And there's a bunch of other information and links and information on how to save water, etc. And so it's really a good resource for drought management and really learn more about how to really manage for droughts. So a little bit of the numbers here. This is Santa Rosa rainfall from 76 to 2021. And this is called a histogram. We just stack up each of the years for the rainfall, the annual rainfall. And you can see that the 2020 and 2021 are some of the driest years back to back, which, clearly has resulted in this significant drought. Now, if we look at the Lake Mendocino storage, since that reservoir filled in 1959, and you look at the spring levels, this one was from April 5th, but the pattern hasn't changed to this date. You would see that the storage there in the orange bar there on the left is the lowest it's ever been for this time of year. And it's not by a little bit, it's by a lot. And so this is what I mentioned earlier, that the upper Russian River is facing some extremely dire conditions this year. And this is another way to look at it. This is a rather busy chart, but if you look at the left vertical axis there, that's the storage in acre feet of water. Each acre foot is 326,000 plus or minus gallons of water. And what you see is just the storage through the course of the year. January is on the bottom there on the left to December on the right. And you can see from 2014 through for this year, what we typically have seen in prior years. And you can see the black line is the May 17th storage. Again, it should be the highest during this time of year. And you can see how much lower we are, even lower than 2014, which is that green line, which was a very severe drought also. 2015 was also a drought year. That was that brown line, the next line. Those were significant droughts, but you can see the additional significance, if I can use that term, of the current year. So this is something we track daily, of course. I won't get into this slide other than to say we do forecast what the storage might look like, and we're working with the State Water Resources Control Board to minimize the amount of releases and flows we have in the river so we can preserve water through the course of the summer and fall in the reservoir so it doesn't go dry. At the same time, the State Water Resources Control Board is working with water users from Healdsburg to Ukiah, that's municipalities, communities, agriculture, to reduce their take of water through wells or through direct diversions. And it may take, they may be facing up to 70, 75% reductions of water use in that area this summer so that we don't dry up the reservoir. And just for reference, we like to keep around 20,000 acre feet at a minimum for carrying over into the next year, but it will be an extreme challenge this year to do that. Now let's go over to Lake Sonoma. As I said, this one's probably a little bit more directly direct to the Springs water supply through Valley of the Moon Water District. Here again, you can see, similar to the prior chart, that black line really shows, even for this reservoir, record low storage for this time of year. And so we're very concerned about this, preserving as much water as we can out of this reservoir. We've also gone to the state to request lower flows and lower releases in the lower Russian River, which would help preserve water for this reservoir. And we're doing this in Lake Sonoma, not just for this year. We will have enough water this year, but we worry that there's going to be maybe a third and a fourth year, a dry year. And so again, like I said, we have to plan not just for the next 6 months. We have to plan for however long it's going to be dry, and try to be as prudent and manage this as closely as we can. Skip that one. This slide just shows over time, or since the 70s, and the orange bars here. These are the significant droughts that we've had. And one thing this slide attempts to illustrate is that significant things from a policy or a project or action have come out of these serious droughts. In 1976 and 77, that was really the trigger for spurring the construction of Warp Springs Dam, which formed Lake Sonoma. In the 2007 to 9 drought, we statewide, that spurred changes in the water code that really hardwired water conservation programs into place. Plumbing codes changed. There's a lot of advances for water conservation that we've really seen the benefits of in the last a decade or so. In the 2013-2014 drought, there were several other programs, both locally and statewide. I will mention the SIGMA, which is the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. This is a statewide program that came because of the drought to manage critical groundwater basins. Sonoma Valley is subject to SIGMA. There's a groundwater sustainability agency that's been formed, and several agencies, including Sonoma Water and the Valley of the Moon Water District and others, have been working together with advisory panels to develop a plan to sustainably manage our groundwater. Remember, if we're going to get through these droughts, we have to really take care of our groundwater basins too, so we can lean on them in times of drought. So we don't know what's going to come out of policy-wise or action-wise out of this drought, but it will likely be something. So our board of directors, Sonoma County, I should say the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors, declared an emergency after the governor was here, and they requested a voluntary 20% savings across the county. In addition, Sonoma Water is committed to reducing its water diversions on the Russian River by 20%. And each of our water contractors, that is Valley of the Moon Water District, City of Sonoma, and the Sonoma Valley, are committed also to take that reduction of water deliveries of 20% from us and implementing their water shortage contingency plans to save water on the retail side of things. And so it's 20% water savings in the summer when there's a lot of outdoor use and irrigation. You know, it's relative to in the wintertime if we had to do this. It's not real hard to do it, but it does take commitment and it takes information and education. You know, use a broom instead of a hose, let your car go dirty, fix your leaks in your irrigation, reduce your outdoor irrigation. That's a big one. Most people over irrigate their yards, and reduce your shower time. You know, those are the kinds of things that can be done that really collectively make a big difference. And so, you know, this just shows that we're cutting this in June. We'll be cutting our diversions, and that will have an effect down here in Sonoma Valley as City of Sonoma and Valley of the Moon Water Districts will also accommodate that through their water shortage contingency plans. And then for more information, like I said, go to sonomawater.org. But for water saving tips specifically for water use efficiencies, go to savingwaterpartnerships.org. We, Sonoma Water, Valley of the Moon Water District, City of Sonoma, and all of the major water districts and cities in Sonoma and Marin are part of what's called the Sonoma Marin Saving Water Partnership. This is their website. And they work 365 days a year on water use efficiency. And then during droughts, they kick it into overdrive. And so there's a lot of good information. And we're really hoping that you'll help us get the word out to really save water this year, to be wise with its use, and to really do what you can to help preserve our water supplies, not just our surface water, which I mostly talked about here, but also the groundwater too. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Jay. Really appreciate your time and information. So we'll take questions from, and again, just a quick reminder, you can collect the questions and kind of answer them generically at the after the council members finish with their questions. Anyone have questions? We've gone from, as Jay mentioned, fire to water. So any questions from the council? Iris?
It's more of a comment. I kind of cringe when I see people being advised to put in water saving plants, because of course this is not the time to be planting. And I know that, you know, it's information that's most pertinent, or at least in your face, in this situation. But I guess my comment is for the necessity of better education all the time because of because of where we live. So that's it. Thanks.
Agree.
Ray, Avram, Mari Carmen.
Just thank you for your time, Jay. I appreciate it. Yeah, it looks dire. I was trying to look at patterns in your data to see, you know, but hopefully this will be a short one, and you know, we can get some rain this winter. But otherwise, yeah, 20% sounds like that's what we should do for now, huh?
Yeah.
Spread the word, MAC members. Spread the word. Avram.
Yes, Jay, thank you. The presentation was great. All the charts and everything were really helpful in sort of defining what we have to face here. I guess my question is a couple things. You know, we're going to do water saving things like taking showers less, irrigating less, etc. I assume that there are going to be penalties for people that use too much water. I know that was in the past, and I remember putting bricks in toilets and other features. I guess my question is, do you know some of the other things that are coming sort of down the lane? I mean, we've kind of generically kind of talked about a few things, but are there other things that are coming that will help in the effort to limit the amount of water we're using, including the groundwater use? Obviously, there are people in the Sonoma Valley beyond irrigation actually depend on groundwater for their water. So can you describe to us what it looks like 6 months from now? Or before winter, I should say.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I wish I could predict the weather.
Right.
One of your questions was about what kinds of, policies the city or the water district may, enforcement. And it gets a little, each of the water purveyors, the city and the Valley of the Moon Water District, I'll take as an example, they each have their own unique plans on how to deal with this. And there are 6 stages that you go through, but each of those 6 can be different. And, they escalate as the seriousness goes up. So right now they're committed to a voluntary 20%. I do believe that will go to a mandatory 20% as we go through the course of this summer. And what each one's plans will be a little bit different, but they will be basically on the use of water, or the use of, like some of the things I mentioned, don't wash your car, or go to a car wash that uses recycled water, use a broom, not a hose, no water wasting. As you escalate up, that's when you can get into enforcement and quote unquote water police. So, it's kind of a term that's used. That's if it gets more serious than what we have right now. As I mentioned, Lake Sonoma is okay this year, although we're really watching and being careful with it because we don't know how long this will go. But if you're up on the upper Russian River, they're talking about just having health and safety needs and no outdoor use. And it's just what your health and safety needs are. And so it's a different situation up there. So you really have to kind of, it's not one kind of consistent thing, which is a difficulty with droughts. When you talk about groundwater, one of the things that I think we need to improve on, and I think we will with the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, is most of these programs that for water conservation, for low flow toilets, or cash for grass, or low water, water consuming natural landscaping, rebates, all of that is through rebates, and it's funded by part of what your water bill goes to when Valley of the Moon. Part of that goes to this conservation program, and it's focused on the urban areas. Usually the groundwater is for rural residential, and there is no mechanism to fund a comprehensive water conservation program. So that's an area of great need. And I think a lot of us involved in the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act are looking at launching those kinds of programs that target water conservation programs, rebates, etc., voluntary, in that user community, the rural residential groundwater user. I think there's a lot of good things that can be done in that space. And then I think just more broadly in terms of how do we deal with future droughts other than conservation and water use efficiency, there are things we're definitely looking at, more recycled water use for certain things to offset potable water. And then another one is recharge of stormwater into the groundwater basins, or bringing wintertime Russian River water and putting it down wells to fill up the aquifers. It's called conjunctive management. There's a lot of funding that's coming on board from the state to really promote that for this resiliency. So using groundwater and surface water strategically. And then we have a new program that we started in one of our reservoirs where we use forecasting to manage the operations of the reservoir, and we can really increase the water supply storage just by using forecasting instead of rigid rules, and that involves the Corps of Engineers. So those are some of the things we're working on longer term.
Good stuff. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to go to public comment. And there's a couple, I see, 3 at least. And Jay, you can kind of collect all of this and answer it collectively.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tom, go ahead.
Thank you. Very informative presentation. Appreciate it, Mr. Jasperis. This is Tom Conlon. I am looking at the Climate Action 2020 report from back in 2016. And one of the things that's in there, it references Senate Bill SB X77, which was a conservation bill that was passed back in 2009. And the goal that was set at the state level at that time was a 20% reduction from 2005 levels by 2020. And I'm just curious, if I haven't heard much about how we're tracking to our goals that are set at the state level and how they have cascaded down to the local communities. So I'm just curious to have you talk about how we're doing on our water conservation goals in Sonoma Valley and maybe in the county in general. Thank you for the consideration.
You want to take the next one, or you want me to answer that?
Yes, take the next question, please. Fred, go ahead.
Hi, Jay. This is Fred Albach. We'll load a couple of highly detailed questions on you here. I know you're a great performer, so you can do it. I have a question about urban water management plans and current housing elements and RENO process, and that I believe in the urban water management plans that droughts are planned for, and that therefore this current drought doesn't stand alone as like the end of all development in Sonoma County, and we build a wall around the Russian River system because of this drought. I think the urban water management plans account for that, but at the same time, we got to conserve, because you see those reservoir pictures. It's serious business, but that the people still have plans. County planning is still going on, and housing elements are still going on. So just wondered if you could speak to how urban water management plans and droughts work into planning and development.
Thank you, Fred. Hannah, go ahead.
Hi, Jay. This is Hannah Perrott. I was just wondering if you could talk about the water releases. You mentioned requesting lower releases, and I just don't really know what those releases are about. For my layman's mind, I'm like, why are we even releasing any water? So if you could talk about that, I'd love to learn more. So thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
So I'll start with Tom's question about SB 7X7. It was in 2009. I showed you a slide there that showed the key droughts and actions that occurred. And in that 2007 to 2009 drought, that was one of the key actions statewide, was this legislation that really hardwired water conservation programs and had hard requirements. So it's 20% reduction from 2005 to 2020, and all of our water contractors monitor that on a monthly basis, and they have all exceeded that 20%. So we, just as an example, in 2005, 2006, we used to deliver about 65,000, 60-some thousand acre feet a year. And in recent years, we've been in the low 40,000s, maybe mid 40,000s. So that is all because of that water conservation that has come in. And the population has grown since then too. So the per capita consumption of water has gone down. It continues to go, well, it has been going down. And then, we had the pandemic and stuff, so there's a little bit of leveling off and noise in the system, but that's been a very important law and policies for water conservation. And Fred always likes to get me into land use and water discussions. Fred is our chair of our advisory committee for the Sonoma Valley Groundwater Sustainability Agency. Yes, the Urban Water Management Plan, just very simply, is something that we water agencies have to do every 5 years on a year ending in 0 or 5. And we just had our board approve ours 2 weeks ago. And it looks out for 25 years. Each agency has to do this that sells water to more than 3,000 people. And look out to the year 2045 for this plan. And you have to look at your projected future water demands and then what your water supplies are and do they balance. But your water supplies, you have to look at not just an average year, you have to look at your most critical dry year. So for us, that's 1977. And you have to look at the 5 driest years on record. So our record goes back to 1908 to 2019. And so those 5 driest years are 1987 to 91. And then you have to do your test for those 3 different conditions. And then there's some other, there's a bunch of other stuff I won't get into, but that's essentially what an urban water management plan does. And it also has, as part of it, this water shortage contingency plan as a piece of that. So it's if you have, like for 1977, as we're facing now, we are going to feel reductions, and that's perfectly okay. But you have to have the measurements in place, the water shortage measures like conservation. You have to have a methodical way about going through and escalating deficiency of water to meet your needs. And so all of that has to be lined out in an urban water management plan. And it's detailed there. If you can look at ours if you're interested, and go to our website. Valley of the Moon is probably just coming out with theirs too. They're all due at the end of June to the state. And so it is used for water supply planning. And we're showing that we have sufficient water. But when it's this severe, you know, when you're looking at those 1 to 5% years of the driest, you're going to have to conserve. And that's just the climate we live in. And then Hannah talked about water releases from our reservoirs. And the water releases I was referring to is what our agency does. There's 2 pools, 2 layers in a reservoir. The top one is flood control that the Army Corps of Engineers releases when there's a flood. We release water when it's in the lower water supply pool, and we have to release water. I'll talk about Lake Mendocino as an example. Up in Ukiah, and that water flows all the way down through Dry Creek and before water's joined from Lake Sonoma. And we have to release water from that reservoir to meet all of the downstream users' needs. Plus, we have to maintain minimum in-stream flows that are regulated by the state of California to support ecosystems, salmonids, and habitat. And so we have to be very careful. We have only one knob to turn 60 miles away, and it takes 3, 4, 5 days to wake its way down. And we have to figure out where all the users are, how much they're going to use, and then how much is left over to maintain these minimum in-stream flows. So when we go to the state during a drought, we ask for permission from the state to reduce that in-stream flow so we can not release as much and keep more in the reservoir. And so that's the process we've been going through since last summer. And that permission goes for basically 180 days, and then you have to go back, you have to go back, and you have to go back. So that's what we have been doing, and we just went back again last week for more permission to reduce those. We're at the lowest we can go though now on the upper Russian River. We can't go any lower than what we're doing now. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you. Are there any, thank you, Jay, so much for for your presentation and taking the questions. So we really appreciate it. Are there any other comments from council members? Iris?
Actually, this may not be anything that matters. I did in the past couple of months see some letters in the press, Democrat, about dredging Lake Mendocino, getting the silt out so that it can store more water, which is sort of irrelevant at the moment. But is that something that would be a wise undertaking, at least from the water agency perspective? And thank you for your presentation.
Yeah, so that's something that gets brought up every drought, and conceptually it seems to make sense. It wouldn't be something Sonoma Water does. That would have to be the Corps of Engineers because they own the reservoir. But in order to really make it a change that's impactful, it's just not cost feasible. It's just immense undertaking, and you'd have to take that soil somewhere. It would be probably hundreds of millions of dollars to do something that was impactful. So it's really not feasible.
Thank you. Okay. So Jay, thank you again for taking the time to be here. We really appreciate it, and your time and energy, and we're in a difficult place. So
yeah.
Thank
you. Get the word out on the drought.
We will.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, so on to our next topic, which is transportation and road updates. And we're going to start with our county first. We have Johannes and Janice here from Transportation and Public Works. And again, same process. They'll have a presentation. Council will have the opportunity to ask questions. They'll hold them, answer them all at once. We'll move to public comment, and then give the presenter opportunity to answer, and then final comments from the board. So thank you. Thanks for hanging on, county folks.
Hi, Maite. This is Johannes and Janice. Yeah, it seems I'm at 8:30. It would have been 12 hours that I've been on Zooms with Janice all day. Amazing. So real quick, I wanted to give you an update. Today was a very significant day at the board. The board approved almost $60 million for improvements to infrastructure and roads countywide, which is really exciting. We have a lot of work to do within the next 3 to 4 years, and we're very happy that the board is committed to that work. I wanted to give an update on the difference between notices of construction for road maintenance and construction projects. And Karina asked me to do that. So road projects that are done by a consultant, a contractor, we have a lot of time ahead of the construction to advertise and work with the community to prepare them for that work. And we typically do that on big paving jobs and bridge construction and anything that's going to disrupt significantly traffic or the neighbors. When we have road maintenance every Monday morning puts out an email with updates on the expected work for the week. And that's how we handle those two. There's no advance notices on regular road maintenance projects, but there are on regular construction projects like on big projects. Sometimes we have things happen and we have a crew that may not be able to work on certain things, and we assign them at the last minute to do pothole patching, because that's an activity that we can always do, as you can imagine. So when we have those type of circumstances, then we have no advance notice or anything. We just have our guys go out there and they start doing the work. So I wanted to give you an idea of how we do that. I think that Karina asked me to give an update on vegetation management. We have been working on, we can only work within the road right away. So our standard is 4 feet from edge of pavement, 15 feet high. And we have been working with all kinds of groups supporting vegetation management by giving them letters of recommendation for the grants, applying for the notice of exemption, environmental documents, and providing traffic control of millions of dollars that we have committed in kind contribution for some of those grants. We look forward to work with the community on that. We've also have a really popular roadside cleanup program that we are doing before we go and mow the sites. And it's been really popular with the community. And I think that is probably the Boyes Boulevard Bridge. We're hoping to open that to the public before July 4th to celebrate America with a new bridge. Did I miss anything, Janice?
I think too, they wanted to just briefly go over the ways of reporting road repair.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Or any kind of repair items.
Yeah, so yeah, I remember now. That was the issue that they hit the fence at the hub. So we have approximately 1,338 miles of roads. And the county's pretty big. And as you can imagine, there's always stuff happening on our roads, whether it is roads, drainage, trees are falling. We have a very robust system to keep track of all the service requests that we get throughout the day. But we have so much stuff that we don't know anything that happens. And in this case, someone apparently drove through a fence and damaged a transit facility, but we didn't know about it. And even though you think that because you can see it, we know about it, we don't. And if it doesn't get reported, we won't know. So we have an app called Soco Report It, and we can put a picture and email it to us. You can also go to our website, the County of Sonoma, and report it by calling our road maintenance yard, and we'll be able to address the service request. That's typically how we, you can always call your supervisor's office as well. We get service requests from all directions, and then we address them that way. Available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Johannes and Janice.
Uh-huh.
I actually do have a question.
Okay.
Well, it's a comment and a question. I do know the difference, but I'm going to make them both. A comment is that we have the SoCo. I use the SoCo app and it works. So recommendation, I did it. It came out and fixed a pothole within 48 hours. So thank you. And then my question is, so when you're driving down like Highway 116 or 12 and the vegetation on the side of the road is rather high, but like the property owners have cut theirs back, who's responsible for like that bit of vegetation that's in between the road and like the fence line of the property?
So I think, Mayte, from what you're describing, which I like, by the way, because those are state routes and not county routes. So that is the responsibility of the state.
Got it.
Now, when it happens in the county, see, the right-of-way could probably be 60 feet. The road itself, it's only 32 feet. So there's that area outside the shoulders. And if you see, when you go to Caltrans, Caltrans only mows, I want to say about 6 or 8 feet from edge of pavement on their freeways. So it's really difficult and cost prohibitive to mow all the right of way. So that's typically how that goes. But those segments are Caltrans' responsibility.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Are there any questions from council members for Johannes or Janice about projects and the difference between notice and limited notice? And thank you for the bridge, by the way. That's awesome. Very excited about that.
I know, we can't wait till we open it.
Yeah, very
It's
excited.
been a long time.
Are there questions from council members? Avram, Ray, Iris, Madi? Avram.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here. Thanks for the update on all the projects. First, is that $60 million? Is that for a certain period of time?
No, Avram, that is 60 million for the pavement preservation program, which is a 22-23 program, a year 22 and 23. In addition to that, there's 20 million of the 60 are for what we call tier 2 projects. And those are generational projects which help with transportation, one way in, one way out roads, retaining walls, feasibility studies for bridges, striping of bike lanes and safety and pullouts on narrow roads. And that would keep us busy for 3-4 years for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure you can burn through 60 million pretty quickly though.
When it comes to road improvements, yeah, you're correct.
Particularly repaving is, it can eat it up. I'm curious that vegetation, because, you know, I walk along Highway 12, sort of the Agua Caliente area, and you know, some of the eastern side of Highway 12, a lot of it sort of goes uphill, and what I'm noticing is kind of erosion, and in some parts of the sidewalk, half the sidewalk is starting to be covered with soil, etc. Does anyone from your department sort of cruise, maybe on a bicycle would probably be the best way to do it, and sort of see what's happening there? Because, you know, there's some areas that need vegetation management. There's area where, you know, soil is coming down, and even, you know, weeds growing out of whoever planted the trees along the sidewalk, you know, there are weeds growing up, etc. Is that our responsibility kind of as citizens to go along and take pictures and then send them to you? Or how does the whole process really work?
I'm going to assume that you're talking about a county road. I think you were talking about Highway 12.
No, I'm talking about Highway 12, but the sidewalks, I'm talking primarily the sidewalks and the adjoining properties to the sidewalk.
Yeah, oh my God, you just hit on a subject that could take 5 or 6 hours debating.
Well, usually those are the questions I ask.
Sidewalk. So according to the Streets and Highways Code, the sidewalk is the responsibility of the property owner to maintain the sidewalk. So while the agencies may build sidewalks, it is the responsibility of the adjacent property owner to maintain them.
What if they don't?
Now, if they don't, then there's a process to address that. The agency responsible for the sidewalk sends you a notice to repair. And then there's a period of about 10 days. If you don't repair, they send you another letter, ultimately doing the work and then placing a lien on your property. No one likes to do that. So both where I have worked before and in the county, we try to work with you to address the situation. And that goes also for when the sidewalk is being uprooted by trees and, you know, all kinds of things. But typically the sidewalk is the responsibility of the property owner. Now, if you have erosion or, you know, there's a slope that's failing or something like that, I would recommend that you take a picture, let us know, and we can address that.
Okay, and who would I email that to, Johannes?
Put it on the SOCO Reported app.
Okay.
And take a picture, SOCO Reported. Yeah. Maitez will send you. She's sending you the link right now to the app, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that agency for the sidewalk responsibility, is that your agency, or what agency in the county? To report?
No, it's well, it's the county as a whole, the government, right? So probably you could start with Public Works because the sidewalk is within the road right away. So we may get involved, but we're not responsible for sidewalks, right?
Okay.
Kind of weird, I know.
Thank you. I'm going to send you the app, Avram.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions? If not, we'll move to public comment. Okay. Fred.
Oh, so Fred, go ahead.
Thank you. This is a real public policy tour de force of the SMAC tonight with fire and water and transportation and public works. This is a really good public policy evening, so I appreciate everyone showing up. I want to mention to Johannes that I have seen a trunk of a family ancestor of Johannes Alabach as an immigrant here maybe 13 generations ago. But anyhow, Johannes might remember me as the lone NIMBY out by Sonoma's Best here with the parking situation there. And I live in the unincorporated county, but just welcome and thanks for coming. And that's my comment.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Anyone else?
I don't see any more raised hands.
Okay, we're going to try to get Johannes off of Zoom before the 13th hour. Are there any comments from council members?
There will be a ribbon cutting ceremony for the bridge, and we will keep you posted.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, we're
All
very
right.
excited about that. Thank you both so much.
All right.
Okay, we're going to take a very quick break.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janice and Johannes, very much for being here. We're going to take a really quick break, and then we're going to come back and we'll talk to Caltrans. And then we have the Mattson projects manager, Daniel Crowley. So we look forward to seeing you. We're going to take a 7-minute break. So set your timers and we'll see you in 7 minutes. Carolina?
Sorry, we had programmed a 10-minute break.
Oh, I had it at 7.
I understand, but I am hearing from our interpreter. This is a complicated meeting and it's a long meeting, and he may not be able to stick around the entire time. So just wanted to make you aware of that. So 10 minutes would be great for him if we can stick to that. I know we're trying to get
I will, Jordy. I know how hard you're working, so thank you. All right, we'll go to 10 minutes then. Set your timers for 10.
We are back. Chair Iturri, just to update the council, we do have a second interpreter. Team tagging with our regular interpreter, Jordy. She will be on for a good half hour or so to allow Jordy to rest his voice, and then he can jump back on.
Great. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We know how hard interpreting is, so we appreciate your time and energy. You have to say what everybody's saying. So we get it. Thank you so much. We are going, our friend Jeff from Caltrans is back. So
thank you.
Jeff, we'll turn it over to you. We'll allow some questions after your presentation, and thank you for being here.
Great. Thank you for having me. And I have some good news and perhaps an appendix to the good news. I'll just leave that hanging in the air like that. I'll share my screen and let me see. I want to go to, where's Google here? There we go. Okay, we're way ahead of ourselves. So the good news is that we have a project that just started in the city of Sonoma, which seems to me to include part of the springs as well. This is a $7 million project to pave Route 12, beginning here at Napa Road in Leveroni. I said that right, I bet. Did I? And then it goes up Broadway, takes a left on West Napa. It comes up here. And this is pretty much the springs in here, all the way up to Vallejo Avenue and Boyes Blvd, which is misspelled on our map. They call it Boyers. I'll see that that's fixed. So, and let's say, so it's not just a paving project. There's a lot of sidewalk work that will take place. They're going to replace about 25 curb ramps. And let me show you what the curb ramps might look like. I think everyone knows, but just in case. Here we go. These are ADA compliant curb ramps, Americans with the Disabilities Act of 1990. And I think we've all seen these. This isn't in yet. This is in front of my house, but they all look the same. Let's go back. To the map. And there's also going to be 2 pedestrian overcrossing signals installed. Those look like sort of like this. And those would be installed on West Napa Street. Most of the work will be done at night per an agreement with the city of Sonoma. And the working hours will be between 6 p.m. and 7 a.m. unless we talk to the city and they feel otherwise. So it could change, but that seems to be the modus operandi for these projects. It just seems like everyone wants us to work at night. So I guess I was talking to Karina before this meeting, and she got excited about, and I started to get excited about it, but there's a sidewalk that I remember being in this meeting and you guys were talking about it. And it extends from, oh, where was it? Just a little north of Verano. It sort of ends there, right? Karina, am I right? And then, well, it turns out, this is the appendix I talked about. And I hadn't shared this with Karina yet, but I'm sure she's not going to be, she'll be a little disappointed, and so will everyone else. The project does not include putting in that sidewalk. So I called the project managers and to see if we could get it added to the project. And they're in the process of looking into that. I said, this is something the community would really like. I know they're getting a new pavement and upgraded curb ramps, but I think they would like to have that sidewalk extension. And so that's something they're looking at. I guess the only problem that I could see with it, it's actually got a name. Our bicycle coordinator gave it a name. And if I could find that, you know, the Zoom thing keeps going over the where is it?
You may want to stop screen sharing and find what you're looking for, and then.
Okay, good idea.
Here we go. I'll stop it for you. There you go.
Okay. Yes. Every time I went up there, I'm like, oh, I lose my tabs. That is not it. Hold on. I'm sorry, everyone. I thought I had this in the bag. Okay, I will share again. Am I sharing? No. Can you guys see my screen?
Not yet. When you select screen share, it asks you which one of your windows you want to share.
Okay.
And then you select it.
Well, that's fine. It turns out that there's a bridge at Agua Caliente, and that confines it's narrower at the bridge, and so that's going to be a problem installing the sidewalk. So that's something we will have to overcome, and I don't know what the solution is, but they're looking into it. So that's probably the reason why there is not a sidewalk there now, but hopefully we can resolve that and get a sidewalk put in. So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Jeff. Do you have a timeline for when this project is going to begin?
Well, it has begun. I sent out the traffic advisory today, but what you see going on is just they're putting up environmental fences near the ditches because there's some, I don't know what's in there, but the sort of thing you do in preparation. They're putting up construction signs. They're locating underground utilities, but about mid-June, you're going to see them changing out the signal lights and working on the new pedestrian overcrossing lights. The paving is going to be one of the last things that they do, and we're thinking that will begin in about mid to late July, and there's a good chance we'll be finished by October. If we are at the end of October, and if we aren't finished by the end of October, then what is left to be paved will have to be paved in the spring because we're using rubberized asphalt and it doesn't bind if the temperatures get too low. So the season kind of ends in October. But that's not such a bad thing. I mean, most of it will probably be paved by that point.
Thank you. Are there questions from the council members for Jeff? I see Iris and then Ray.
Jeff, I just wanted to say that those covers that they've been putting over the drains, they're coming off, and I think they went on prematurely. They're winding up in the middle of the street, that kind of stuff. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. I thought I was going unnoticed, but I guess someone's noticing.
does that coordinate? Is that I thought maybe those were associated with the PG&E project that's going on along Highway 12. And I guess, does that project terminate at the northern end of where your project begins?
There's a small bit of overlap, and we're going to make sure that they finish before we finish. It doesn't have, I don't think it has anything to do with our project. There is a project coming up to replace the Hooker Creek Bridge and replace the Sonoma Creek Bridge on Route 12. That's not going to happen for another, they're not going to start construction for maybe a year and a half on that. But they may be relocating utilities because of that, or they may just be relocating them.
Yeah, PG&E is redoing the gas supply from, they're staged up on Agua Caliente Road, and I think they're working from Agua Caliente south to at least to where your project begins there at Boyes, and maybe further. I'm not sure. And I was just wondering because they're working now, and I'm assuming you would be paving. I would just hate to see them ripping out. It seems like your paving will come afterwards anyway, because they're doing that work now. So I hate to see new work getting ripped up. That's all. I'm assuming it's getting coordinated, but that assumption may be crazy on my part.
I predicted that question.
If I may intervene real quick, right? Through the chair, if I may. So just to clarify, the work that PG&E is doing starts at around Fetters and goes to about Waterman Avenue. And the work that Caltrans will be doing ends at Vallejo Avenue. So there's a good gap that is not going to be touched. Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't clear on the scope for the PG&E. That's what I was confused. The other part, the gap, the Donald Street Gap, I think maybe the name you were looking for.
That's it.
Yeah, that's how we affectionately know it. Yeah, that's been an ongoing problem now for decades and decades. My wife worked on that issue. That's been a leftover remnant. I mean, we fought hard to get these sidewalks and lights and street, and finally got all that. And this gap has remained a problematic issue. And we talked about it when we talked about the incident, the unfortunate incident down at the intersection below, and how we go from organized and unorganized into this. It is part of the gap in the pedestrian fabric, and it is an important part that we need to be fixed sometime down the road. And I understand it's probably a bigger project than you've got going here. You've got a little creek going through there. You've got mobile homes that are below level and so many issues there. But yeah, I just want to press it home one more time.
Thank you, Ray.
If I may, through the chair, just to clarify, the work that PG&E is doing does extend down as far south as Central Avenue, even though more of the work is done on Waterman Avenue. But again, that's still north of where Caltrans will end. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there public? Oh, Avram, sorry, I didn't see your hand go up earlier.
No, I'm just going to wait patiently here. It's all good. Thank you, Jeff. Any work is appreciated, obviously, because it improves everyone in our community. I'll just ditto Ray that the Donald Gap is been an eyesore and a thorn in our side for a very, very long time. I'm sure you have bright enough people at Caltrans to figure out a solution. Most of the work going on is obviously through the city of Sonoma, and we're sort of at the tail end. And so if you could relay our feelings, and this is a long historic issue. It's not an issue that is a recent issue. It's been going on for years, as Ray says. And part of all of this is, how can we be a community with a state highway running right in the middle of us, sort of like getting run over in the street, so to speak. And, you know, we're hoping in the future that we become a more pedestrian and a cycle community, so that we could really enjoy the community rather than the traffic whizzing by. And I know Caltrans' job is to make sure traffic moves efficiently through state highways. And so we're kind of at odds with each other. But what I'd like to suggest, because I'd like to see motorists using Arnold more so than Sonoma Highway, to get from the north part of Sonoma 95476 to the southern end at Petaluma Avenue if people are going to the Plaza. And it's a more direct route, it's faster, and it's less congestion for us here. But what I would like to suggest for pedestrian safety is at crosswalks along State Highway 12, is to have those flashing little lights on the sidewalks, you know, where either people can, you know, press the button and those things brighten up. I think that would help in terms of pedestrian safety. But I think also what would happen is I think drivers would become very frustrated with having to stop more often. I think pedestrians would feel more safe, and perhaps at that point, drivers would look for an alternate route rather than flushing through our community. That may all sound crazy, but I think it's a start. And just the safety issue alone, I think would be a plus. I don't know how much it costs to do those, but I know on 5th Street West, they have it at the bicycle trail, and it works very, very effectively in making drivers aware that someone wants to cross there. So that's what I would ask or suggest.
Thank you, Avram.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from council members? We have lots of suggestions, Jeff.
Yeah, I'd like to point out that in the chat, I put some links to the website, a link to the news release that I put out. And also, in case you're interested, tomorrow night, there's a meeting at 5:30 to discuss the future of Route 37. And that's a chance for people to weigh in on what kind of road you want it to be in the future. And so I put a link to the Route 37 website, and you can go on to that too, because I know that probably a lot of people in this meeting take Route 37. So that might be something you'd be interested in as well.
Thank you. I'm going to move to public comment. Yes, Karina?
Sorry, I just want to let the public know that, and also Jeff, the public doesn't have access to the chat during these meetings. So any information that you want the public to have or access, please make sure to email it to me, and I can add it to the minutes for public records.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Karina, for that clarification. Are there public comments? I think I see Tom.
Tom, go ahead.
Hi there, Jeff and all commissioners. Tom Conlon here. I live about 3 blocks from that Donald Gap, and I also happen to serve on the Transportation Agency Citizens Advisory Committee. And I know that that is a significant area of concern in the county. I'm also an active bicycle rider, and I participated last week in the memorial critical mass bike ride organized by the Bicycle Coalition and supported by SCTA. where we rode a big loop and stopped at the places where bicycle riders have been killed in that general area. We went out Agua Caliente and we went up Arnold Drive, and we came out back down Highway 12. And then just today, while driving past in a car, I saw a juvenile on a bicycle riding through from the El Verano at Highway 12 intersection. He had just gone north on the correct side of the road, heading north on Highway 12. He was riding on the de facto sidewalk that is really just a dirt lane. It's very narrow, and an inexperienced rider could easily fall off and end up literally in the traffic right there. So it is an active, and has been for many years, an active zone, a very dangerous zone. I have heard rumor that it's understood that the mobile home, there's one mobile home that's very close to Highway 12 there, and that it's understood that that mobile home would need to be removed and the owner relocated, the property owner compensated and all of that. I don't know the specifics, but I would encourage you to continue to look into this as we have this opportunity right now. There may be some opportunity to fast track, particularly since we just heard from Transportation and Public Works that there's some significant funding that's recently come available to the Transportation Agency. So I appreciate you bringing this matter to us and to all the great work you're doing along that route. We're very excited about this project, have been for a long time. And appreciate the other comments of the other members of the council here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Hannah, go ahead.
Hi, Jeff. This is Hannah Perrott, and we've talked and emailed before around, Highway 12 at Verano. I'm just wondering if you can use like extra bright paint or something for that intersection when you're striping it. I've seen in Mill Valley and San Jose, they have very clearly demarcated bike lanes in like a bright green. And even if it were just for that intersection, that is just such a free for all. If we could make it clear to everyone where everyone's supposed to go, I just would, we'd all appreciate it. So thank you so much for being here. And that's it.
Thank you. I don't think we've had the last word on that. I think we're still looking at that intersection to see if there's some improvements we can make. So I think it's still under study. We did, I believe, Johannes restriped it. They had some, it just so happened they were doing a project at the same time, so they restriped it. So we're still considering steps on the Verano intersection.
Dana, go ahead. And I think you may need to switch to the English channel real quick. Dana?
Hi, Karina, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Jeff, for all of the communication about the upcoming project. We're all very excited. I do have a quick question about the intersection of Verano. And for drivers also, if there's going to be any improvements for drivers, any extra signage or directionality for folks turning left from Verano onto Highway 12 from both directions?
I don't know. That's something we're gonna have. Everything's under consideration. I know the last time we talked about it, there was a concern that there was too much signage, that it was too busy of an intersection. So I would just have to find out, and I can update you, everyone, at a later meeting. Really, all I can say is they're still looking at that intersection, trying to find a way to, I guess the word would be, add some clarity to it. There's just a lot going on there. There's a lot of roads that come together, and it's always been a problem that you try and grab someone's attention with one thing and you don't want to distract them from the other. So I would just have to go back and talk to our traffic engineers about it. I just don't know.
I know it's one of
Sorry.
those things I feel like no amount of signage is going to help, but I don't know if maybe some like turn lane directional things across the intersection, but then again, it's a small intersection. I don't know. I would be curious to see if something could be done on that level.
Yeah, we talked a lot about that. So that's something I can mention to our traffic engineers. I'm going to report back to them, and then I can update you at the whole MAC meeting at some point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fred, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, I'd like to agree with Avram's sentiments about moving Highway 12 onto Arnold Drive. And I'm not sure how they would feel about that over on Arnold Drive and Madrone Road in Glen Ellen, or whether you would do a utilitarian analysis of how many people are inconvenienced by heavy traffic. But I'm just curious, what would be the process to move Highway 12's location? Where do you start with something like that, and who has to decide that? You'd have to get permission from the city and the county, I would guess. And I'm just curious how that process would go about happening.
Well, one of the things you're talking about, when you're planning changes to the traffic, traffic, if you close one route, then everyone goes to the other route. And so that's sort of like an exchange of benefits. So Route 12 traffic goes under Arnold Drive, and as you put it, how do the people on Arnold Drive feel about that? So it would take a pretty substantial environmental study of the whole system in the area to determine what changes would be made to the traffic patterns. And it'd be that's a pretty big lift, I think, to try and move a state highway and then have all that traffic put onto city streets or county streets. That's difficult to do. The only times I can really, I know it's happened before, but the only times I can think of it is when the earthquake hit San Francisco and the freeways were damaged, and so they pulled them down. But so far as just closing down an existing highway, that's difficult to do. I don't know if there's any place where it's been done before. I'm sure there is, but it's hard to do. You have to do a lot of studies.
Everywhere, it's been done everywhere. This state route, you go, the Highway 101 goes through here, then you have the business route. It happens all the time.
Well, yeah, you have the business routes and things like that, but I guess what I'm just trying to say that it would be difficult. You'd have a long study period because the traffic has got to go somewhere, and everyone's going to have a say in it.
I'd like to point out that the highway goes through a county road already. The road through Boyes Springs, really is a county road, and there are a whole lot more people in Boyes Springs than there are in the Springs on Highway 12 than there are on Arnold Drive. And I do understand about the difficulty of doing that.
So we're in public comment right now. So let's go back to our public comment. I know we're all really passionate about this particular topic, but I do want to honor the process and get back to public comment.
Thank you, Chair. Jim, go ahead, please. State your name for the public record.
Jim McFadden. I live in Boyes Springs. And I just wanted to know, do you know what time that Route 37 scoping meeting is going to be tomorrow?
Yes, it will be at 5:30. And if you go, I could probably show the website. If you go to, probably the easiest way to go to it would be to go to the Transportation Authority's website, Sonoma County Transportation Authority. There you go.
Ah, okay. 5:30, great, thank you.
And it's a virtual meeting, just like this one.
Thank you so much.
So either the Caltrans site or the Sonoma County Transportation Authority site has the invitation and the information. Or if you go to our Twitter feed, it's on that.
Thank you. I'm not sure if Fred's hand is up again. Or Tom's, I'm not sure what's happening.
Thank you. I just would add
Thank
the
you.
website resilient37.org is the short link. And also the links that Jeff posted into the chat are still active. I was able to click on them. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. So the public can see the chat then. Okay, great. Okay. Are there other, it looks like that's it for public comment. I'm wondering if there are any other comments from the council members. I think I see Avram's hand up.
Jeff, I just want to say thank you for attending a number of our meetings. You're very generous with your time, particularly after hours, and we do appreciate it. And we actually feel we have an advocate now, to be very honest.
Well, thank you, and thanks to Karina for bringing it up. So we were talking, and she goes, "What about the sidewalk?" And I'm like, "Ooh, what about that sidewalk?" We had talked a lot in the last meeting before, so.
And so, Karina, thank you for making it happen with Jeff.
Right.
I just want to finish with your comment about, heavy lifting, etc. And Ray, I liked your comment. They do business routes and through routes all the time on state highways. And I think that makes really perfect sense because it's really a business route, not a through traffic route. I don't know how to begin that process, Jeff, or who we write or how we request it. And to be very honest, if you've driven down driving down Arnold is probably nicer than driving down through the Springs, to be honest, for a whole variety of reasons. They have controlled lights. There aren't people, there are very few businesses on Arnold. There's just one section at Grove where there's, a gas station and a couple of businesses on the corner. But other than that, there are no businesses. And I rarely see anybody walking on Arnold. And I think it's something that should be considered. And Jeff, I'm not asking you this time, but when you come back again, if you could do a little research and a little inquiry, and if we have to write a ton of letters or whatever we have to do, it would be good to at least have the conversation about alternate route, business route, etc. Because there are people that commute in from Santa Rosa into the city of Sonoma, and they go right through the Springs. And if they had a better way, I think the traffic would flow more smoothly. And I think the businesses along Sonoma Highway now through the Springs would appreciate it too, because I think we would find more people bicycling. I think we'd find more people using sidewalks and really being much more of a community. So if you could do that just as a sort of side project, we would very much appreciate it.
Thank you, Avram. Are there any other comments? Iris?
I'd like to point out also, Jeff, that the push is for a lot more housing to be in the Springs and if possible, through the city of, along the highway corridor in the city of Sonoma. So it's only, I think the amount of local traffic is only going to increase if those things happen. And they, you know, there are projects in the works. And that is not the case on Arnold Drive. It just seems like sooner or later it's kind of going to be a no-brainer. And the comment about a business route versus a you know, I don't know what you call that, a through route, I guess. Because actually what we also have is people commuting from Santa Rosa through to Vallejo and things on that highway. It's not just people coming down from Santa Rosa to go to work in Sonoma. That wouldn't be so bad, but it's no.
Thank you, Iris.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you want to make a comment?
We need to take a quick break for our interpreters to switch off. So I was hoping this was a good stopping point.
Okay. All right. We will make it a stopping point. Jeff, I just want to thank Jeff for being here, and we will have you come back because there's a lot to be said about this topic. So we want to make sure that we keep it front and center. So thank you very, very much.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right. We'll change interpreters and then we'll go to the Mattson projects.
Thank you everyone for your patience. Jordy, give me a thumbs up when you're ready, please. ¿Está listo?
Gracias, Jordi. Okay, so we have Daniel Crowley from, are you the Mattson Projects Manager? Is that your title?
Yes, I'm a project manager for KS Mattson Partners, both for current entitlement processes, which there aren't any, but also construction projects, which there are a few. So,
great. So thank you, and the floor is yours.
Great. So first of all, thanks, Karina, for inviting me to this. I think I might become something of a at least regular figure at these meetings, as we've got a couple of items going on up in the Springs that are of higher profile and definitely very public visibility. So we want to make ourselves available for comment and to kind of just share updates with the community on what's going on out there, just because at first glance, it may look like nothing is happening at the Lanning container site or anyway. So yeah, thanks for allowing me to share today. So first of all, there's three main sites that we're kind of focused on here in Boyes Springs. And if I may share, I don't have a fancy presentation, but I do have Google Maps, and I will, let's get that going there. So we've got three sites in particular that I want to talk about today. You'll all be familiar, I think, with this map. We recently came into possession of this building here, which is the post office and old depot. This is the Lanning Project, or the former Lanning site, and this is the Boyes Food Center. The Boyes Food Center building is this guy right down here. So we have acquired some properties with some pretty significant historical value, I think, and this is something we really want to kind of be upfront about what we're planning out there. And in addition, at the end, we're going to kind of reach out for public comment on another project that we've just started to take on. So let me start with the Lanning containers. That's this project up here, and all I have to share with you right now is a little photo. This is what is currently under review at the county for building permit. So we're going to have a mixed use container project. We call it a container project because the containers are actually already built. They're in San Leandro. They're ready to be shipped up upon issuance of a building permit for all of these site built elements, like the landings, like the stairs, all the things that can't get shipped up on a truck bed from San Leandro. So that's kind of in the works. You may have already seen some trucks out there, some holes in the ground. We're really ready to drop these containers on the site as soon as we get our building permit from the county. And we're pretty deep in that process now. We're working through some significant fire code issues and building code issues, but we're going to get it done. And I think hopefully you'll see some containers dropped on site there sometime this summer. So it's been a rough year for construction for a lot of different reasons, but I think we're pretty well a go on this one now. And provided we can get the fire department and the building department what they need to see on their plan checks, we should be seeing some progress out there sooner rather than later. I'm going to go back to Google Earth here real quick and direct your attention down here. This building is the famed Boyes Food Center, which has fallen into some rather significant disrepair over the years. But in November, we were entitled by the Board of Supervisors to construct a mixed-use building that fronts the highway right here, as well as 8 townhomes along Arroyo Road up here and Calle del Monte down here. So it's going to be a long process, because what we've been kind of required to do out there is, and also we don't want to mess people up too much. So I don't know how well you can see this, but there are orange outlines where currently buildings exist. So there's a building here, there's a building here, here, 7 or 8 total. So we have to do this in phases, right? So it might be a rather lengthy construction schedule, but we don't want to disrupt the current tenants and residents in these apartments up here in particular, these buildings over here, these buildings over here, when we can build 2 townhomes over here, displacing 2 families or tenants in one go, have this phase 1 completed, have them moved somewhere at the same market rate or move back in, at which point we can start to work on phase 2, which will also require demo of 2 existing residents. So the phasing aspect is something that we really kind of need to focus on out here, just because housing being what it is in the area, really we can't displace any more people than we're than reasonably so. Ultimately, what you see out here, I think we're going to get some pretty cool construction going on out here. These are sort of renderings of the future townhomes that are going to be on the back of the site. You'll see those going in kind of down here. We've also got more townhomes here. This is a 3-story mixed-use building. Sonoma Highway kind of runs along the side here. There's going to be ground floor retail and food service. Top 2 levels are going to be apartments, residential. So what you're going to kind of end up with out here is 37 new units where there once were 7 or 8. So we really hope we're kind of contributing to the housing effort here in Boyes Springs and in this greater Sonoma area by kind of densifying and in addition kind of providing a lot of affordability out there for the existing soon to be displaced residents due to the construction. So they'll all be moved back in at their current rate or better once let's say it's all said and done, right? We're also going to do as part of the same project, a rather extensive restoration back to its 1930s, 1940s glory of the Boyes Food Center. So we're kind of hoping, one thing we really want to stress is respect for the history of Boyes Springs and in the greater Sonoma area. But you'll hear me talk more about this in the next project as well. But this being a very high-profile historic property, we do want to do our best with, while modernizing it up to current codes and safety. We really need to, I think one of the main features of Boyes Springs is its historic value to both residents and potential tourists. I mean, you see people going to the Fairmont for its historic value. We think we can kind of bring that to the greater, let's say, soon to be downtown Boyes Springs area as well. So finally, I'd like to discuss the project we know as 22 Boyes, but which is the post office building. Google helpfully put a little letter here, I believe. Yeah, there we are. So this is the post office building in the ex-train depot. Now this is a hot topic here in Boyes Springs. both for the community and for ourselves. We came into possession of the building, which is outlined here in blue, and you'll notice there is no parking on site. So the parcel is really just the size of the building alone. All the surrounding parking is county owned. So one thing we really want to do, and we need the community's voice in this, is activating that building to both its historic and economic potential. And one thing I'm really happy to hear, the previous presenter talk about was the pedestrian upgrades to the area, because we think we're going to be adding a lot of pedestrians to this area in the future with tenant improvements, with just kind of activating the downtown core of Boyes Springs as a whole. So that's one of the things I really want to kind of focus on is in the future, you're going to see some kind of testing out here of the soils, that kind of thing, to see what we can do, what's possible for this county area right here. And we're comfortable kind of working with the county on that, working with the community on that, because ultimately it's going to be some kind of a public space. That used to be a very important center for public life in the square, and we'd like to bring it back to to that. So it's kind of right now it's a bit of a husk of a building. The electrical's not up to date. It was, I think, built during the war, so a lot of the plumbing needs to be replaced with copper, that kind of thing. So a lot to kind of bring it back up to modern standards, but also this being such a high profile property, we need the community's input on what they want to see out there. So we would like to kind of reactivate this space here that's a county parking lot as a public square. We're going to shoulder some exploration down there, like I said, just to kind of figure out what's even possible as far as either structures, whether we need to grade and raise this to become a public square again, and what we can do out there in terms of kind of bringing and opening this whole area up, right? We've got the Fairmont, which is a little closed off, but we think, with the activation of these 3 sites, we can get more pedestrian activity along Highway 12 and in the Springs. So that's kind of pretty well what we're working on up in the Springs at the moment. Now, I'd like to sort of, again, thank Karina for inviting me here, but also invite her to share my contact info with anyone who reaches out, because I know these are high profile. It's important that we get some feedback from the community on these, because at least in my opinion, history has a lot to do with the community's identity, a collective kind of shared experience, if you will, whether or not you've moved there, whether or not you're from there. These are hubs that we think are valuable for Boyes Springs, and we really want to make sure that we do our very best in respecting the people of Boyes Springs, the culture of Boyes Springs, the history of Boyes Springs, in addition to bringing, housing stock, doing our part to help the housing stock, doing our part to help kind of retrofit some of these more historic sites. So with that, I think, did I talk too fast? Is that too much? I think that's probably all I have on a kind of monologue level, but I'd be really happy to take comments. Again, feel free to reach out to Karina for my contact info. We'd love to hear from you. You're going to be seeing some work done out there on the Lanning site, on the parking lot to the north of the Boyes Post Office building and ex-train depot. So any kind of input you have, we'd love to hear it. We really want to be there for the community, because these are rather high profile properties, and we'd like to we want to do it right. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions from council members? Iris?
Daniel, I've noticed that you're speaking as though the area that is now parking around 22 Boyes is in a sense yours to develop. And the hope there, and there is some funding, for there to be a plaza there that would, so I'm a little confused about who would actually develop that, because it's not your property, as you've readily disclosed.
Correct. It's not our property, and we're not able to develop that without any input or from the county or anybody. So that's But having said that, we have a property that has parking issues, let's say. And so we're hoping, maybe the county can help us out with the parking issue if we're willing to shoulder a lot of the costs to, construct or create a public space on their lot there that's currently there. So no, that's not our parcel. We're not able to develop that parcel. Ultimately, whatever goes there, we'd like to help out with, because it's going to do our property a tremendous benefit. But nothing happens out there with the community, without the community, or without the county saying so. And providing
another question re parking is parking for the Boyes Food Center, because that was a problem for it seemed like you had the parking for the residents there fairly carefully covered, but the question was whether there was actually enough parking for people who would be visiting the businesses there.
Yeah, and it was an issue. You're right. It came up a lot during review, and ultimately we squeezed it in there with the uses as proposed. Now, having said that, if those ground floor retail units were all to become assembly spaces, there would be more environmental reports on the parking issue out there. So as proposed retail, we're squeezing in there with the required amount of parking. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, the restaurant seems like it'd be an issue.
There's one restaurant, one food service vendor in that space, which is about all the current parking can allow.
Okay.
Or the current proposed parking, I should say.
Avram and then Ray.
I think you're
muted.
Yeah, there we go. Are we going to do reports from our committees? Are we going to have?
We hope to.
Okay, well, I don't know where to put this in, if it's here or not. Maybe I'll save it until later, because I did have the opportunity to meet with Ken and Dan at the request of Susan. I don't know if anybody was on the economic development presentation, but at that presentation, Susan said, I am committed to a plaza. Yay. And she is committed to a plaza. And I know there's been some exchange of ideas, and to address your concern, Iris, to be very honest, I think both from Ken and Dan's point of view, they're as committed to a plaza as we are. So whatever happens going forward, and nothing is, I mean, this is even dreaming stage at this point, that we are going to get our plaza. And my feeling and my hope that it's even gonna be better than our wildest dreams. And I think, to be very honest, I think Ken and Dan are committed to that too. So I'll wait until later to talk about it a little more specifically.
And if I may add to that, Avram, thank you. I would add that, it's in all of our interests to have a plaza there. It's if there's retail spaces there, if there's restaurant spaces there, it's a plaza, in my belief, is kind of integral to a community's identity and well-being. You need a public space, and it would help out all of the adjacent properties, not just our own. But we really think it's got tremendous potential there, and it really just should be a plaza the way it once was. And we are committed to that in that development in particular, but also with regard to the Lanning Project and the Boyes Food Center projects as well.
Ray?
I noticed on the Boyes project, Daniel, that TLCD was on the drawings for the schematics. Will they be doing the rest of the construction documents for the project?
No, thank you, Ray, for the question. No, they've actually excused themselves from the project overall, which has led to, I don't know, a month or two delay in kind of putting an architectural team together for the for the development of the site. When we're entitled, we have to go in for building permits and that kind of thing. So we've got a really capable architect out of Oakland. It's in feet cubed. They're going to be picking this up and doing a killer job on it.
Okay, and one other question, who's your civil engineer for the Lanning project?
That would be Adobe.
Adobe, okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
We work really closely with Adobe. They've helped us out a lot on that project in particular, and also they'll be doing the Boyes Food Center as well. We say Boyes Food Center,
Okay.
because it's an identifiable factor right now. It's really going to be so much more than just that once it's all said and done.
So I have a question.
Sure.
Some of us, I think we all maybe hold different visions for what that plaza might be. I see it being very much a family and community place of the people that live in the Boyes area. And I also hear that there will be a lot of business generated by these developments that you all are working on. So I'm wondering if there's going to be an opportunity to have some kind of visioning with this, because if it becomes a plaza where it's driven by the businesses that are in that area, it will not be a family plaza. So I have great concerns about that. So I just want to be sure that there's some opportunity for visioning around this, that the community members and the family members in this area are considered when building a plaza.
Understood. And yeah, we agree completely. In particular, you know, yes, we do have a lot of businesses in the area, but part of that is having a lot of employees that live in the area, and particularly with regard to, you know, it's a hospitality industry, right? They're not living in multi-million-dollar houses in the center of Sonoma. So part of what we're doing out there is adding to the housing stock, and a lot of us will be living out there, you know, soon. A lot of part of what we really want to do out there is kind of create a community identity, or at least activate the current community identity, because there is a vibrant community out in the Boyes Springs that is lacking a public space. And I think, yeah, to your point, there is going to be ample room for public input and comment. And as we mentioned before, as Iris brought up, it's not our parking lot. We can't just develop whatever we want there. It has to be done in conjunction with the community. There's no way around it.
Okay. You wish to move to public comment at this time?
I do. I think so. I don't see anybody else's hands up right now.
Great. I do see raised hands from the public. Tom, go ahead.
Thank you, Jeff. That was quite an impressive presentation. I'm a little speechless. My great grandfather moved in with his uncle. So that's like my great uncle, just down the street at the corner of the canal and Geiger, what's now, I guess, when that depot was functioning, and that was a plaza. It was a de facto open space around the train station, and it was a major community destination point. That is the history of the Springs. It's very sad that since the Mission Inn became such a monolithic property in the 1960s, that it's been turned into car storage. And so I'm looking forward to obviously the money behind this private investment and the vision that you folks are bringing to the table and your promises to work with the community. I'm excited about this. I think this is the first and most significant redevelopment vision of the Springs I've heard about since my grandfather said that Jackie Gleason was investing in the Mission Inn in the late 60s. And but I agree with you completely that you will get nowhere if you don't work with the community. It's so clearly obvious that we have to come together around what the vision will be out there. So I'm impressed that you've put together these pieces of the puzzle and that you've taken a good pitch forward. You know, I think the other comment I wanted to make about Iris's concerns about parking, because I know there are a lot of concerns expressed in the community. Before the Planning Commission and maybe the Sonoma Valley Citizens Advisory Commission, one of the major takeaways from the commission review of that project at Boyes Center is that it was probably overparked from the perspective of those who have planning, and in my case, greenhouse gas perspective. We really need to be getting people out of their cars. We cannot continue to design our cities around private automobiles. And so I'm very glad to hear that you're coming to the table with both money and vision around a walkable plaza in that area. So I can't say I'm 100% in support of the project because I don't know what the project is yet, but I'm very enthusiastic about moving into this process. So thank you for bringing this to us tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I can respond real quick, that's fair. But I'd also like to just push back on one item. The vision was already there. We just need to help push it along. I mean, that's kind of something that I think we'd really like to stress. I mean, it was a plaza. It'll be a plaza again. It's ultimately a restorative effort. So, you know, it will. I think there was a palm tree there, a famous palm tree, and I'm not sure we'll be able to put another palm tree there with the current water efforts underway, but you know, we'll find out. We'll do our very best.
Thank you. I think it's Fred's next.
Yes, Fred, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, I have I'm live in the unincorporated county on the other side of the valley, and I live by one of the original KS Mattson projects here on the east side at Sonoma's Best. And the project had, you know, what was in the planning for the parking, and it was all on site there. And now, years later, the whole intersection of 8th Street East and Napa Street East is covered with cars all the time. And it's really kind of a safety hazard from my perspective, but that's my indulgence in being a NIMBY. Everyone's got a little bit of it in them. And so I just wanted to give you a little word of warning about the parking from here on the east side, is that the food mart there and the Boyes Food Mart was originally advertised as being just like Sonoma's Best. And so that attracts a lot of traffic. And I'd also like to ask Dan, in the Boyes Food Market residences, how many deed restricted units there are, and how many naturally occurring affordable housing, and what kind of income range of people are you looking to house there, and what will their guarantees be of having to rent at 30% of their annual income? Thanks.
Sure. So first of all, thank you for your comment. I'd be hard pressed to find the exact details right now about the affordability of the Boyes Food Center project, but I'm sure we'll be talking in the future, and I'd be happy to provide you exact details. I will say, one of the ways we were able to get it done was without deed restrictions. In fact, particularly with regard to what I discussed in the presentation, the phasing aspects of it. So all of the current residents on site will be offered residencies at the new development at the same rate that they're currently paying, which effectively equates to about eight way below market rate units in much more modern housing. But in response to the detailed nature of your question, I would have to provide that to you separately. I don't have the numbers right now, and I wouldn't be doing the project justice if I tried to do it off of memory.
I don't see any more raised hands, Chair Iturri.
Okay. Are there any final comments from council members? Avram?
First of all, Dan, thanks for taking the time to be here. We were all in the dark about all the projects for quite a long time, and we've been asking for more clarity. So I appreciate you giving us more clarity as to what's going on. So I hope you come back, as we go forward, as projects start happening. I would like to see more members of the community be involved in this conversation, so that it really does become a joint venture, so to speak, of your company and our community.
Thank you. Okay. Dan, thank you so much for taking the time. It sounds like we'll be seeing you again in the future. So we'll make sure that we schedule you for another visit.
If they invite me, yeah.
Yeah, I think we will.
Okay.
I can see that happening.
So can I. Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share. I know it's important to get the communication lines open on especially projects like this.
Yeah, it is. So we appreciate it. Okay. All right. Thank you. So we're going to move on to our next agenda item, which is our ad hoc committees. And we are going to, the potential of reconfiguring some of them. We'll do, so I am going to take a time check. It is 9:49. And I knew this, Karina and I were like, we know this is going to be a long meeting. So I just implore you to keep it as short as possible. And if we have to continue this conversation to the next agenda, we will. We've got an interpreter who's been working really hard and it's getting late, but I want to give everybody the opportunity to at least share a little bit of their work. But just remember, 9:49. Okay. All right. We'll start with Dana, who has been waiting patiently with her baby for 3 hours. Thank you.
She's ready for bed, let me tell you. So I'm going to be super quick. Map Your Neighborhood's going really, really well. And of course, as anticipated, fire season is here. More people are becoming interested. So we continue to connect more neighbors together and get them their booklets and get them trained on how to work together. We've learned that there's been some great successful in-person neighborhood meetings. So that's refreshing to know that people are feeling okay about meeting together. We've been participating with, we did the evac tag giveaway on the 1st. Tomorrow, Iris and I will be joining Mari Carmen at the health center for a little mini emergency preparedness fair. We'll be joining Food for All and the Housing Authority group in June. We're looking forward to that at El Verano. So just lots of more in-person outreach happening, a lot more opportunities to connect with more folks, and we're moving forward, and it's exciting. So thank you. That's my update.
Thank you, Dana. Yeah, you guys have been doing great work. Your social media is awesome. So
thank you.
Ray, Fire Safe Council.
Yes. So I think we're finally getting down to the nuts and bolts of this, and I'd like to propose that we have a discussion next MAC, and we can discuss this more later, about the virtues of a fire safe council or a fire-wise community. We spoke this morning with Roberta McIntyre from the Fire Safe Council from Sonoma. I'd like to bring Chief Baker into this conversation. We've got John Wheatley is still in our group. We've got Lucas and Sarah, his wife, who have been participating. Lucas is involved in fire safe councils in Napa and has a really good understanding of the vernacular and the differences that we're talking about. I think that, through this pandemic, we probably need a faster process to get moving. And I think the Firewise community ties in more with the grassroots that we've already got going. I think we could rejoin our efforts. It won't take forming a corporation like the Fire Safe Council. So I'd like to give you a more in-depth presentation on that in the future with some of my other colleagues, and we have Roberta's slideshows. Roberta cannot make it next June 22nd, but she's on a quick timeline out of the county, so we should work fast to use her as much as we can.
Would you like to do that presentation at the June meeting, or would you like, or June?
Well,
or...
I think I'd like to do that if we can on the next at our next meeting. So if we could schedule a little bit of time for that discussion.
Absolutely.
I didn't want to do it this time, but I'd like to get it done as soon as possible so that we can move forward.
Yes, right. We'll schedule time for you at the next agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Avram, the Plaza?
Yes, the Plaza. What I will say, it's been a little discouraging for the last couple of years because we seem to be wandering in the desert. And when I heard at the economic meeting and also in the IT that Ken Mattson bought the Church Mouse building, I was thinking maybe there's light at the end of the tunnel. And so I called Susan and I said, let's have a conversation, because at the economic development meeting, Susan said she'd been in conversations with Ken Mattson and there was some good exchange of some ideas. And so it was suggested that I meet with Ken and Dan, his project manager, hear what they have to say and kind of roll some ideas around. I will let everybody know that Ken and Dan had seen what the Sonoma Community Alliance created years ago as the Plaza, and they were excited about that. There are a lot of parts that have to come together. I don't want to even talk about anything because it's all pie in the sky right now. But I think in the coming months, there'll be more clarity around that. And from what I can gather in talking to them, they truly want the community to be involved. And Maite, in terms of your concern, I hope it's a mini Sonoma Plaza in a sense where families are there and it's a gathering place for our community, our entire community, not just a segment of the community. So I'm hopeful, and I think with the county and our community and Ken's company working together, that we can come up with something that will serve everyone. And so that's my report. I wish I could be more specific, but I can't because, as I say, so many parts have to sort of fold together. But as I said earlier, I see light at the end of the tunnel, because before I was hearing it was going to be this little tiny postage stamp kind of thing. And now I think it can be of a much grander scale, given the space that we have to operate in.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to thank you all for all your work on the ad hocs. I know how much work they are, so thank you. I'd like to propose that we add an ad hoc. We've been talking quite a bit with perhaps doing some art projects in the springs. And there's been a couple of different ideas floated, and there have been some conversations with different organizations that might be able to help us. So I'm suggesting that perhaps we start an art ad hoc group. I know we're light on people, so I'm wondering, I'm wondering if there's a reason to reshuffle people, or I know Ray is he's moving Fire Safe or FireWise Council along, and I would hate to disrupt that work. And Map Your Neighborhood is moving really well as well. I don't want to disrupt that work either. I'm wondering if the Plaza is something we need to continue, or if that goes on pause until there's more clarity around it. I don't know what Avram's thinking on that. And then if there's interest in adding an art council art ad hoc to try to maybe move some art projects along in the springs. I seem to be losing my vocabulary as
the evening goes on.
Yes.
So what's sort of your view of this art project? Obviously, we have Artscape or Artscape.
Artscape, yeah.
Yeah. And I know those people are pretty talented. What's sort of your vision of this art ad hoc? And
well, we've talked a little bit about it, and there may be some blank canvases throughout the community. We've talked about maybe PG&E boxes. We've talked about maybe some of the county signs that are along the corridor that, and Artscape would be a great lead organization. So that would possibly be an option as some potential canvases.
Yeah, I think, that there should be some kind of unified vision instead of kind of helter-skelter, and maybe Artscape. Have you talked with them, Maite?
I have.
And sort of what are their feelings about this?
Well, they're interested. They're very interested, but I said I needed to come back to this group and get your kind of blessing before we had any further conversation with them about what that might look like. So I would be happy to be part of that ad hoc group and initiate these conversations with Artscape, because I think they're a great organization in the Springs. So
okay, so basically that ad hoc committee would be both people on our advisory council as well as Artscape and maybe other members of the community?
Could be.
Because I think my wife who's been working at Artscape and showing there might be interested in something like that, because she is an artist. But so where would you like to go from here, Maite?
So I'd like to, if the council is agreeable, I'd like a motion to create an art ad hoc. Avram, I think it would be great if you would help me out on this one, particularly if your wife's working at Artscape. I think that's a pretty good connection right there. So I'm wondering if that would be of interest, and if there's a motion for that to happen.
I mean, I would make a motion that we have an art ad hoc, or maybe community enhancement. I don't know.
Could be that.
Yeah. And
how about Arts in the Springs? We could call it Art in the Springs.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. That's for lack of anything else. I think that's good.
That's the first focus, it seems.
That's pretty good at 10 o'clock at night, Iris.
Yeah.
Thank you. May I make a motion?
Yes.
Go ahead. That we create an Art in the Springs ad hoc to be with Maite at the head of that, and Ram hopefully helping. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Ray, you should second it.
I'll second that.
There you go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll talk more about it. Avram, you and I will have a conversation.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
I forgot to mention, we have made a tremendous amount of progress in another area of emergency preparedness, and I completely forgot to mention it. We are getting quite a bit of equipment and supplies that are going to be stored. We're in negotiation right now, but they are going to be stored in the Springs. We're getting a Connex container. It will have cots. It will have the ability to have a stand-up kind of office setting. It's through Catholic Charities and the county. We'll have MREs, which are meal ready something or other. I can't remember the exact acronym. So these things are all happening and it's very exciting. And we're in collaboration with the school district, with the county, and with Catholic Charities. And we will have our supplies to be able to stand up a shelter. So that's, did I miss anything on that one, Karina? Okay, thank you. Okay, great. So I want to community events announcements. Are there any? Muddy?
Yes, I just do want to announce that Veterans Hall will be, vaccine clinic will be closing this Friday. This Friday will be the last day for that vaccine clinic. As of now, it is open from 1:30 to 5, and it's accepting walk-ins or appointments through My Turn. We are doing La Luz Center Tuesday, Thursdays from 3 to 7, and Sundays from 12 to 3. We will be holding a second dose clinic at Alvarado School on June 12th. And then we are looking at a neighborhood pop-up, which will include a vaccine clinic on the 15th of June at the Fiesta Plaza from 5 to 7, that we will be collaborating with the MAC. So I hope that you all can organize and join us and take turns, so there's no more than 3 MAC members, I guess. Will that be? So that would be Tuesday, June 15th, 5 to 7, right behind the cinemas, or on the north side of the cinemas parking lot. There will be more details and flyer to be released soon. And then if you know of any other sites that you think would be a good place to do a pop-up vaccine clinic, please let us know. We are still talking with Burbank Housing to do something in the city of Sonoma at one of their sites. And tomorrow, the emergency preparedness event. Thank you to all the agencies that are joining, and for the sponsorship of Julie Atwood Halter Project with the emergency kits that she donated. And so we'll be having evacuation tags, learning about evacuation zones. 4Cs will be there talking about vouchers for first responders and healthcare providers during an emergency. We also have Pets Lifeline talking about emergency preparedness for pets. Halter Project, of course, for big animals. And Map Your Neighborhood, talking about organizing neighborhoods. So thank you everyone for joining us and making this happen before we get into fire season.
Thank you, Mari Carmen. Karina, is your hand up?
Yes, if no other members of the community, I would like to. Go ahead, and then I'll do mine last.
Okay, I've got the El Verano Food for All. I think it was mentioned earlier. El Verano Food for All, Map Your Neighborhood, and Sonoma Valley Housing Group will be holding a community forum at El Verano on June 16th. It'll be an in-person outdoor meeting. Its intent is to kind of just take stock of where we are. We do a lot of community forums at El Verano, and this will be our last one. Was right before the shutdown in March of 2020. So this is kind of a where are we now opportunity. So we will send out more information on our Facebook page and via other outlets, but we're looking forward to that opportunity.
I don't see any raised hands in the public for community announcements, so I will go ahead. First of all, I want to say
what
thank
about
you.
Testing? I know that has changed.
What was that?
COVID testing.
Oh, I'm going to give some updates. Sorry.
Currently it's only 1 day a week right now in Sonoma Valley on Wednesdays.
Correct.
Wednesday mornings, 9:30 to 11:30 at the Boyes Park and Ride, and then 2 to 4 at St. Leo's Church.
Right, and that was on my list of community announcements. And to add to that, Supervisor Gorin is advocating for increased testing in the valley. The need is decreasing, but it's still there, especially with schools returning to in-person. We have heard and are working with staff from Sonoma Valley High School and other schools, but there's still a lot of moving pieces, but I did want to bring that up. We are working with Molecular Matrix to hopefully make that happen. I do have a couple other announcements. The SBCAC is Sonoma Valley Citizens Advisory Commission is meeting tomorrow. They're going to be talking about vacation rental ordinance and receiving an update. They need community input, so we encourage people to participate. You can visit their website on the Sonoma County page and obtain the link to participate along with the password and phone number if you'd like to call in. Again, they definitely want community input, so that's tomorrow. And that is happening. Give me a second and I'll give you the time. I apologize. I thought I was prepared. At at 6:30 tomorrow. This week, we have the Charla Comunitaria, and I will also say that invitation in Spanish, Charla Comunitaria and all Spanish community meeting, informational meeting. Topics to be discussed are updates on COVID numbers, vaccine testing, as well as where to get tested, where to get the vaccine. There will be a discussion about employment training and job search assistance. As we know, a lot of employers are having a hard time restaffing, and some people may need to move into a different career. So this is a great opportunity. And we will discuss where and when to use a mask. So please join. Again, it's all Spanish. We will have the connection or connectivity information on Supervisor Susan Gorin's Facebook page. You can also reach out to me for more information. Los invitamos a participar en una reunión mañana. La comisión del Valle de Sonoma se estará reuniendo y van a estar hablando sobre la ordenanza de lugares de renta para vacaciones. Van a estar recibiendo una actualización y necesitan la participación de la comunidad para conectarse. Por favor, pueden contactarme para más detalles o visitar la página del condado para obtener la agenda y la información para conectarse. También les invitamos a participar en la charla comunitaria, una conversación más bien en español, totalmente en español. Tendremos información sobre un programa de entrenamiento y asistencia de empleo, ahora que muchos negocios están buscando personal y tal vez usted perdió su trabajo y necesita cambiar de carrera. Esta es una buena oportunidad. También tendremos información sobre dónde y por qué usar cubrebocas, dónde hacerse la prueba de COVID y lugares y horarios para las clínicas de vacunación, al igual que asistencia financiera y otros recursos. Para conectarse, la información va a estar proporcionada en la página de Facebook de la Supervisora Gorin. También me pueden contactar para obtenerla. I think that was it. We talked about testing and vaccine clinics. So thank you very much. Muchas gracias.
All right. So our next item is future agenda items. So I think we're being pretty responsive to the requests that have been happening. So we appreciate them. It's making for a very vibrant agenda. And we're wondering if there are any suggestions for the future. We're going to have Ray do fire safe versus fire wise. We know that Chief Akre will be making a regular appearance quarterly. Daniel from the Mattson projects will be coming regularly, but what are the other areas of interest, particularly for the June and July summer months? Avram.
It would be, I would like to see tennis come to our meeting, head of PRMD. The reason being, we've got sort of a lot of potential things going on, and we've moved through COVID, and because of COVID, obviously projects got delayed and waylaid, and people had to work from home, etc. But I'd like to, talk to him about how can we really begin to start fast tracking projects in the Springs. The reason I mention that is a couple of the restaurants, and now one, Hamburger West, which is out of business, and maybe some of that was because it took them over a year to get up and running. And then you have Baker and Cook, which took 18 months to get going. I would just hope that, we are an opportunity economic zone, whatever, how we can sort of speed up that process and work together. I don't want them versus us, and too often PRMD is, the bad people. I don't want to go there. I want to know how we can work together to move things forward, because we're going to need that. Because if Mattson is successful in terms of some of his developments, it will bring in other people, hopefully to, vitalize or revitalize our local economy. And, but we're going to need the help of PRMD. Otherwise, we're going to chase people away. That's a long topic, but.
Yeah, I'll have to check with the county and see how much of that is in our purview.
We're advisory.
Yeah.
And as advisory, we can give advice. And
just a reminder that the MAC does not have land use. You can definitely provide input and comments. But at the end of the day, SBCAC is the one who.
I agree completely. I am not trying, I know we're not regulatory or can do anything. We're just making nice suggestions. And that's all.
I just wanted to make sure. I
get it. I know what our role is. But I think we could express how we feel. I think that's legitimate.
Okay, thank you.
That's good. Thank you.
Iris?
In a somewhat similar vein, I'm wondering about having a presentation from economic development from the county to explore what kind of businesses and maybe from I don't know, business owners in the Springs or La Luz, for example, to have an exploration of what kind of businesses could be developed by actual local people, small businesses through the Springs, and not just restaurants and coffee places, businesses, maybe tiny manufacturing businesses. Some of those are, those are little dreams that I have, and I'm wondering, how could that happen? How can that be encouraged? How can the money be found? That kind of exploration. It seems to me it's a really important thing to develop, to look at developing businesses that can employ local people and will serve local people additionally.
Thank you, Iris. Anyone else have any suggestions? Okay. All right. Great. Both good suggestions.
If I may, through the chair, what I heard also was the MAC is interested in receiving updates from PG&E.
Oh, that was earlier.
Caltrans, Mattson Project. I added budget updates as that has not been brought up in a couple of months as well.
Okay. Yeah, our friend Jeff is going to have to come back again. Okay. All right. So we are.
I do
at-
see a raised hand from the public. I apologize.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Tom, go ahead.
Soliciting for other topics. I know that there was talk of a library. I haven't heard anything about it in a while. Might be a good civic plaza anchored project to consider.
Thank you, Tom. Okay. We have made it to item 15. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
I second.
Thank you, Iris. Avram, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. This was a great meeting. Really, really appreciate all your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
See you soon.
Thank you to everyone.
Night off.
Bye.